Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 117th NAACP National Convention Monday morning plenary. Please welcome Reverend Dr. Reginald Sharp to deliver the invocation.
Good morning. Good morning. What a joy it is for us to gather together this morning. As you're able, will you still yourselves and join me for a word of prayer as we begin this morning. Gracious and eternal and wise God, we come to you this morning with hearts filled with gratitude for a new day, new mercies, new strength, and a new week. Along with that, we thank you for new seasons that are flowing our way. We don't take it for granted that early this morning, you allowed your sweet scintillating sunshine to tiptoe across our faces, alerting us that a gift called the present was laid at our feet yet again. We say thank you, O God, for the work and witness of the NAACP. We thank you for this organization's history, reality, and its destiny. And we thank you for the ancestors and the angels who have carried us over a way in which tears have been watered. Thank you for our foremothers and forefathers who have carried us when we treaded our path through the blood of the slaughtered. And now from the gloomy past, here we now stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. Thank you for W.E.B. Du Bois and Ida B. Wells. Thank you for Fannie Lou Hamer and Medgar Evers. Thank you for Claudette Colvin and John Lewis. Thank you for Jesse Jackson and Septima Clark. Thank you for Harold Washington and Shirley Chisholm. Thank you for Barbara Jordan and C.T. Vivian. Their labor, their love, and their leadership are yet pumping through our veins and our arteries. We thank you that you are still infusing us to do the work of justice and equality in this country. When our work seems in vain, when we become weary from justice fatigue, when nighttime seems to last longer than the day, when it appears that peace and righteousness will never prevail, remind us we have a Savior who has defeated death. We have a Spirit who sustains us in weakness. We have a Father who keeps every promise. We have grace for today. We have mercy for tomorrow. We have strength for the journey. We have brighter days ahead of us. We have new possibilities that are coming. We have a home that is being prepared, and we have a God who will never leave us. We have a cup that runneth over. We have promises that won't fade. We have joy that comes in the morning, and we have hope in you that trouble won't last always. May we always be reminded of the immortal words of the late Reverend Charles Gilchrist Adams. If there's a river, we can cross it. If there's hope, we can share it. If there's a goal, we can meet it. If there's a building, we can construct it. If there's a painting, we can draw it. If there's a lesson, we can learn it. If there's a mountain, we can climb it. If there's a valley, we can walk it. If there's a cross, we can bear it. If there's a storm, we can survive it. If there's a test, we can pass it. If there's a sky, we can touch it. If there's a blessing, we can receive it. If there's love, we can give it. If there's joy, we can have it. If there's hate, we can kill it. If there's Trump, we can get him out. If there's a dream, we can have it. If there's an award, we can earn it. If there's a game, we can win it. If there's a mission, we can complete it. If there's a paper, we can write it. If there's a class, we can ace it. If there's drama, we can get over it. If there's pettiness, we can ignore it. If there's shadiness, we can shine it. If there's mess, we can outgrow it. If there's a teacher, we can respect them. If there's a student, we can educate them. If there's an elder, we can listen to them. If there's a child, we can embrace them. If there's a challenge, we can get through it. If there's a college, we can attend it. If there's a military, we can join it. If there's a book, we can write it. If there's a poem, we can recite it. If there's a heaven, we can get to it. If there's a devil, we can defeat him. If there's a God, we can trust him. And if there's an NAACP, we can make it. May we always be reminded that we are somebody in the name of the one who is still turning water into wine. Let all the people say amen. Let all the people say ashe. Let all the people say we gonna be all right.
At this time, please welcome the presiding officer for this morning, member of the NAACP National Board of Directors and president of the Detroit branch NAACP, Reverend Wendell Anthony.
Let me say good morning to all of you and welcome to this plenary session. Let's give Dr. Sharp another hand. We appreciate that prayer that he gave us as we're entering into this room, preparing for this day's events. We know that the regional meetings have just concluded, but we thank you for your presence. I want to acknowledge all of those who have worked so hard to bring all of this together. Those engineers, those people, those media persons, the staff of the NAACP who have put this assembly together and all the events that you're going to see over the next few days. We thank them because it takes a lot to bring all of this together for such a time as this. Let's give them a big hand for the work that they have done in behalf of us and the work that they are doing. As you are coming in and taking your seats, please know that these are very critical times that we face. We face a turning point in this nation as to whether or not we're going to have democracy and freedom going forward, or whether or not we're going to go back to the plantation. I don't know about y'all, but I ain't going back. And so we thank God. We just say we ain't going back. Some of y'all want to go back. Say we ain't going back to the plantation. So we thank God for all of those who are here. Let me ask to see who's in the house. Is Region 1 in the house? Is Region 2 in the house? I think Region 2 is in the house. Is Region 3 in the house? Is Region 4 in the house? Is Region 5 in the house? Is Region 6 in the house? Is Region 7 in the house? Is the NAACP in the house? If you belong to the NAACP, stand up on your feet and give your organization a big hand. That's all right. That's all right. Thank you to all of the executive board members, to the president, to the chairman of the board, to all of the committee chairs. Thank you for the work that you have done. To Mike Turner, who is the head of the convention committee and on this planning. Thank you, Mike, for the work that you have done. Give these people a hand. They work hard. To all of the state conference presidents, and if you're a state conference president, stand up. To all of the branch presidents, if you're a branch president, stand up. To all of the vice presidents, stand up. To all of the secretaries of the unit, stand up. To all the treasurers of the unit, stand up. To all the sergeant of arms, stand up. To all the folk who just believe in freedom, stand up for freedom and justice and equality. I know, Chairman Russell, this is a very difficult time. It makes some of us want to lose our natural minds when you think about what's going on in America today. But I want to say to you, don't lose your mind. Tell me what's on your mind. Is it surviving, thriving, conniving, or just plain jiving? Tell us what is really driving you. Is it your social security or your physical insecurity? In times like these, it simply can't be your economic purity, because tariffs getting ready to bust up what you thought was your stability. But don't lose your mind. If we stick together, we're going to be fine. So many contradictions spinning all around us. Look in any direction and folks trying to undermine us, declaring that DEI is dead from a White House built by black hands in which the enslaved could not stand. If that ain't diversity and inclusion at a time when they believed in total exclusion, many folks must be living in an illusion. Project 2025 is all the way live. See, public education, like voter participation, is the very heart and soul of every democratic nation. Now on the way for systemic elimination. I guess they never got over Brown versus the Board of Education. Thurgood, you and Charles Houston simply magnified the brilliance in every neighborhood. Now Ketanji Brown Jackson is making our progress real good. So instead of looking down, our children should look up, not to be locked in a system that kept them stuck up, unable to live out their God-given capability, while others with privilege live with unlimited capacity. Just like a private citizen must name Elon with the 4-year-old son telling the elected president sitting behind a desk that you ain't the one. Because I got it from my daddy. You see, I know I'm a baddie, so America, y'all get ready. Don't you know it's easier for a camel to get through a needle's eye than for a rich man to get through a kingdom's door? Oh, it's enough to make you start screaming, but we still can't stop dreaming. See, the future demands that we be working. Over my head, I hear music in the air. In 1964, Sam Cooke sang to us that a change is going to come. Oh, yes, it will. James Brown came with Say It Loud. I'm black and I'm proud in March of 1969. Nina Simone came right back in August 1969 to be young, gifted, and black. Oh, what a lovely, precious dream. Open your heart to what I mean. Never look down. That's why Earth, Wind, and Fire told us in 1973 to keep your head to the sky. Then in 1988, Dougie Fresh rapped to us about keep rising to the top. While my mind say, give all you got. And Tupac simply said in 93, keep your head up. Ooh, child, things gonna get brighter. Ooh, child, things gonna get easier. DMX said, y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me go out, out. Up in here, up in here. See, no matter what, just remember Maya Angelou said in 1978, you might write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise, because in case you didn't know, Kendrick Lamar just told you they not like us. So whatever you do, don't lose your mind. Keep your mind. So brothers and sisters, to begin our program this morning, we have a very special guest to bring us greetings. We're going to have special guests all during the day, so you better not go nowhere. Please draw your attention to the screens for a word from the House Minority Leader right now. The Minority Leader of the House Democratic Caucus,
To Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony,
Mr.
Chairman
Hakeem
Leon W.
Jeffries.
Russell, President and CEO Derek Johnson, and the entire organizing committee, thank you for your leadership of America's oldest civil rights group. It's a high honor and a distinct privilege to virtually address the 117th NAACP National Convention. Right now, extremists in the Congress, the White House, and the Supreme Court are trying to turn back the clock. They cut SNAP, Medicaid, and veterans benefits, eliminated diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and are actively ripping away Black political representation with Jim Crow-like tactics. It's all a disgrace, and we're going to fight back. This is an all-hands-on-deck moment for everyone of goodwill, and we're thankful for the leadership of the NAACP, who are committed to making America the best version of herself. Since 1909, this powerful organization and the leadership of incredible heroes like Ida B. Wells, W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary Church Terrell, and Roy Wilkins have helped us make it through moments of great challenge. This year's convention theme, We the People, is particularly timely as the Constitution and the rule of law are under threat from an out-of-control president and his extreme MAGA Republican cult followers. The Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. We, the people, will not allow the extremists to circumvent it and take us backward. We, the people, will undo all of the Trump administration's damaging cuts. We, the people, will protect diversity, equity, and inclusion because those are American values. We, the people, will pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act so we can end the era of voter suppression in the United States of America once and for all. House Democrats are proud to partner with the NAACP, and we will continue to show up, speak up, and stand up with you against injustice and for our civil rights, our voting rights, economic justice, social justice, and racial justice until we vanquish this national nightmare in our great country. God bless each and every one of you. God bless the NAACP, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the U.S. Representative for Illinois' 1st Congressional District, Mr. Jonathan Jackson.
Good morning, NAACP, the oldest fighting African-American civil rights organization. Happy 117th anniversary and growing stronger every day. I want to say a very special thank you to my friend and brother, Attorney Johnson. Thank you for this invitation. And I want to, as a member of the United States House of Representatives, welcome you to Illinois' 1st Congressional District. The 1st Congressional District has had consecutive African-American leadership since 1928. This is the oldest, longest serving district consistently with African-American leadership in the United States of American history. I also want to say welcome to Reverend Martin Luther King Drive. This was the first major boulevard turned over and renamed from South Parkway Boulevard to honor the life, the living, the legacy of Reverend Martin Luther King. It's the longest street with Reverend Martin Luther King's name on in the entire nation. I could go on and on telling you about all the great things of the 1st Congressional District and its history. Quincy Jones lived here, Nat King Cole, Thomas Dorsey, Mahalia Jackson, Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, and on, including President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama. It all comes through the 1st Congressional District, but we're here to talk about our future. That's why the 1st District needed you to be here, the NAACP, because we've got a fight on our hand like we haven't seen in a century. They're trying, in the words of Tyrone Davis, to turn back the hands of time. We're not going backwards in time. As the 1st Congressional District representative, I, along with a colleague and the dean of our delegation, Congressman Danny Davis, started a diversity, equity, and inclusion caucus. When Donald J. Trump said that woke was going to be illegal, diversity, equity, and inclusion was going to be illegal, we knew what he was doing. Those were code words to the arch segregationists. Those were code words to the Confederates to say they wanted to be anti-civil rights. African-American women have lost over 600,000 jobs from January 20th to present. As soon as we take back the House in 107 days, under my leadership, we're going to have diversity, equity, and inclusion back on the top of the agenda. We cannot be soft on the things that we've gained in civil rights. We've got to continue our fight. Now look at what they're doing. They have made and weaponized the issue on women. Women now have less rights today than they did a year and a half ago. I am 60 years of age. I'm born in 1966. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1965. Follow me. I'm the 1st generation of African Americans born with equal rights in American history. I need to wake up the special citizens. I don't call you senior citizens because I'm in that group now. The special citizens. If you used to have hair and now you're bald, if you've got a little bit of gray, God still has you here for a reason. It's not up to the children. What are we going to do to get our children back involved in the NAACP? How will the children know unless we lead them? We're going to make sure that we fight for diversity, equity, inclusion. We fight for our contracts to restore our community. And I've got an assignment as I leave on September 15th. We started this last week. We had a prayer vigil outside the National Museum for African American History in Washington, D.C. Those of you that can come, I want you to be there. September 15th is the anniversary of the bombing of the children in Birmingham. It's a sacred day. It's a day that we commemorate. We set aside. God can only bless us if we remember him. We're going to have our arms wrapped around the African American History Museum. The Trump administration is trying to curate and remove the narrative of our history, our pain and our resilience, our joys and our fights out of the museum. Follow me. Hands off our history. Hands off our history. In this 250th anniversary, they don't want us to remember that Benjamin Banneker wrote off to Thomas Jefferson and told him that you were a hypocrite. While you signed freedom for others, you kept us enslaved. Hands off our history with this museum. They talk about the happier side of slavery. There was no happy side to slavery. Hands off our history. I need you to meet me in Washington, D.C. Bring your ministers out. Bring your children. The politicians dedicated it. They built it. Now we need our ministers and our faith-based community to consecrate that holy site so that we may never, ever forget what God has done for us. God bless you. Have a great convention.
Now, please welcome to the stage the U.S. Representative for Illinois' 7th Congressional District, Representative Danny Davis.
Well, good morning. Good morning, National Association of Colored People. I'm Representative Danny Davis from the 7th District of Illinois, and I can tell you that as a lifetime member of the NAACP, as the husband of Dr. Vera G. Davis, former president of the Chicago West Side branch NAACP, I am delighted, proud to be here, and proud to welcome you to the greatest city and the greatest state in the United States of America, bar none. As a matter of fact, we've got a lot of good things for you. Soldier Field, Marshall Field, Wrigley Field, the Bulls, the Bears, the Black Hawks in the sky. But more than that, we've got a city full of hard-working people, a city filled with pride, African Americans in charge of many aspects of life. A black woman is in charge of all of these facilities that you're using today. Every one of them, Miss Larita Clark. Of course, an African American mayor. But more than that, it's a city that was founded by John Baptiste Point du Sable and his wonderful wife, Catherine, Native American, and down through the years, as you've already heard from Jonathan Jackson, my brother, that it was Chicago that elected the first black person to Congress after the period of Reconstruction, Oscar DePriest. It was Chicago that spawned the development of health excellence, the first black open heart surgery, Daniel Hale Williams, right here at Providence Hospital in Chicago. But Chicago is a city filled with struggle, pride, and accomplishment. We don't just brag, we state fact. We were the first city, first state to send an African-American woman, Carol Moseley Braun, to the Senate of the United States of America. And we're going to send another one. We're going to send our lieutenant governor, and she will become the next African-American senator in this country. We spun the development of John H. Johnson, Ebony and Jet, George Johnson, Ultra Sheen. And so Chicago is a great place to live. But we never look back. We know that in spite of all the progress that we've made, there are forces trying to take us back. Backwards to Jim Crow. Backwards to the back of the bus. Backwards to no jobs, no opportunity, and no sense of democracy. But we say to those forces that we will never, ever go backwards. We are going forward. And I want to commend the National Association of Colored People for the leadership you've provided. I want to commend President Derrick Johnson for his steadfast presence and keeping the NAACP in the forefront. But I can tell you that as far as we have come, those forces are serious. And so when you come here to work, we have a black Speaker of the House in Illinois, a fellow named Emmanuel Chris Welch. And Chris always says that when you do the work, you see the results. So I commend all of my brothers and sisters, and I can't tell you that the community where I live, we have an excellent branch, headed up by a young African-American sister, Ramel Terry, who leads and who leads and who leads. So I say welcome, but I also say be prepared to work. And be prepared to understand that when you make use of yourself, at the end of this year, I will wrap up what has been 46 years as an elected official. As an elected official. 30 of those in the House of Representatives and as a member of the Ways and Means Committee. I've met all of the decision makers that you can see. But one thing they all respond to is action. And if you can get your mind straight, if you can believe that you can win. Yeah, I know folks are afraid of Trump and what Trump might do and what the Republicans may be doing. But let me tell you, if you believe it, you can achieve it. I remember my mother, who was a firm believer in poetic sayings. And she used to tell us that if you get your mind right, whatever it is that you want, you can accomplish. And I leave you with this poem that she taught me. The mayor and I were chatting, and we've got the greatest mayor in the United States of America, who is a black man, as black as the ace of spades, but as progressive as you can possibly be. But my mother used to tell us that if you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's a cinch you won't. If you think you're going to lose, you've already lost. For out in the world we find success begins with the fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But sooner or later, the woman who wins is the one who thinks she can. Think it, do it. Welcome to Chicago. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the mayor of the great city of Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. And NAACP, welcome to the great city of Chicago. It is truly an honor to welcome you for this 117th National Convention, today's plenary session, and all of the workshops and activities that you all will be engaged in, not just today, but throughout the remaining portion of this week. For 117 years, this incredible organization has helped bend the arc of history towards justice. And not because progress was inevitable, but because ordinary people made the extraordinary decision to organize, to advocate, and to refuse to accept injustice as the reigning form of governance. And that work has never been easy, and today it remains as urgent as it has ever been. Across this country, we are witnessing the wicked efforts to undermine fundamental rights, weaken democratic institutions, and to turn neighbors against one another. We see attempts to silence the truth and erase our history and convince people that somehow division is stronger than solidarity. But history has taught us something very different. And every time people have been told to accept injustice, they have risen together to reject it. And every time families have been threatened, communities have shown up for one another. And every time the wickedness of the power that is concentrated into the hands of the few have tried to intimidate the people have reminded this nation that democracy belongs to all of us and not just the hand few. And that is the legacy of the NAACP. And that legacy belongs to each and every one of us. And this year's theme, We the People, speaks to our power. It is not just simply a phrase in the Constitution, but it's a reminder that democracy has always depended on the people and our willingness to fight for it, to protect it, and to expand it. And people like you in this room, that the pathway to democracy has always been paved through Black liberation. And though there's an attempt to demonize our Blackness, as long as we are collectively Black, investing in Black is not a criminal act. In fact, it is the act of justice. And so over the next several days, you'll exchange ideas and you'll challenge assumptions and build relationships, but most of all, you will sharpen our strategies. So don't leave Chicago carrying only moments of inspiration, but leave with new partnerships and a new determination to commit ourselves to making sure that over the next 117 years, that posterity can look back on today and say there was a generation that rose above the circumstances. And so we leave ready to organize and to do it more deeply, advocate more boldly, and build stronger coalitions, because justice is never secured in one speech or one march or one election or even one generation. It is secured when people choose again and again and again to show up for one another. And that's what the NAACP has done for more than a century. And this moment requires all of us. And finally, today's speakers and panelists and organizers and everyone that has dedicated their lives to advancing justice, I thank you. You know, when I think about the descendants of the formerly enslaved, there was a few demands that we had: education, housing, healthcare, transportation, good paying jobs, and I will add a friendly amendment, environmental justice. If you look at all of the areas in which the Trump administration is attacking this country, he is literally going after every single institution that our ancestors fought for. If it was not clear that we pose hope and opportunity, but yet a threat to the establishment, it should be clear now. And so to Chair Russell and to President Johnson and to the rest of us in this room, let's not allow this moment to be passive. Hope is action, it's organizing, it's refusing to surrender to cynicism, because we know that our future is better when we organize. If you look at the largest upward transfer of wealth that has ever occurred, it has come at the expense of everything that our ancestors fought, marched, and died for. Blackness is the security of this democracy, whether people want to accept it or not. And so today, we take on a responsibility. So let's leave this convention committed to building a democracy that works for everyone. So God bless you all, and God bless your time in the greatest freaking city in the world. Spend as much money as you possibly can, because a brother has got to keep investing in our people. Thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are boxes in front of the plenary hall and registration area that are marked clearly resolution amendments. If you have amendments to the resolutions packet to be considered on Tuesday, you must place your amendment form in one of these boxes prior to noon on Monday for that amendment to be considered on Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, to present the awards for this year's Cobb Awards, please welcome Dr. Dwayne Proctor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dwayne Proctor. I'm president of nothing. Sorry. I forgot who I was. I am the chairman of the NAACP Foundation Board of Trustees, and I'm also the chair of the National Health Committee. It is a pleasure to be here and speak before you today as we celebrate extraordinary dedication and transformative leadership in the pursuit of health equity. Why? Why is that important? Because our health is our wealth, right? Say it with me. Our health is our wealth. One more time. Our health is our wealth. The NAACP has long understood that health is not simply the absence of disease. It is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It is a fundamental human right that shapes dignity, opportunity, and freedom. These are the ideals embodied by Dr. William Montague Cobb, past NAACP president, pioneering anthropologist, and longtime editor of the Journal of the National Medical Association. His legacy is one of the brilliance and activism and moral clarity. I have the distinct pleasure of presenting Dr. William Montague Cobb Award, which honors those who have made a significant impact in the field of health. Each recipient, in their own powerful way, has demonstrated visionary leadership, unwavering commitment, and measurable impact in dismantling health inequities and advancing health justice. As we celebrate their achievements, let us also recommit ourselves to the collective work ahead. Let their stories strengthen our resolve and ignite our passion. May we continue working together to ensure that every individual, regardless of background, zip code, circumstance, can lead a healthy, fulfilling life. Why? Because our health is our wealth. Very good. The national awardee of the William Montague Cobb Award is Dr. Cato Lawrenson. Dr. Lawrenson is a native of North Philadelphia and the 112th NAACP Spring Iron medalist. Dr. Lawrenson comes from a family dedicated to preserving the health and well-being of his community. His mother was a primary care physician, and his father was a carpenter. And from his parents, he developed a love of caring for those around him. He followed in his mother's footsteps and went into medicine after graduating from Princeton University, Harvard University, and MIT. Ultimately becoming an orthopedic surgeon. Today, he is the Albert and Wilda Van Dusen Distinguished Endowed Professor of Orthopedic Surgery at the University of Connecticut, where he also holds professorships in chemical engineering, material science and engineering, and biomedical engineering. Dr. Lawrenson serves as the CEO of the Cato T. Lawrenson Institute for Regenerative Engineering, a field he pioneered. Through his work, Dr. Lawrenson epitomizes the principles fostered by Dr. Cobb, working at the intersection of research and clinical care. He is an expert in both the art and science of care. As a professor at the University of Connecticut, Dr. Lawrenson is also dedicated to fostering the next generation of medical doctors in his field, particularly African Americans and those of other diverse and inclusive backgrounds. He is the first surgeon in the world elected to all 4 national academies. He's been elected to the National Academy of Science. He's been elected to the National Academy of Engineering. He has been elected to the National Academy of Medicine, and he has been elected to the National Academy of Inventors. This brother, our brother, has achieved America's highest honors for achievement awarded to him by President Barack Obama. In 2022, he received the title of Knight Commander of the Order of St. Lucia. So you could say we are in the presence of royalty. Dr. Lawrenson, thank you for your dedication to the advancement of medical technology, your commitment to patient care, and your willingness to continue your legacy by fostering the next generation of Black physicians. Everybody, let's welcome Dr. Cato Lawrenson.
Thank you, and good morning. Today, I'm really proud to receive the National W. Montague Cobb Award from the NAACP. Thank you. Now, my life in many ways has paralleled that of Dr. Cobb. I'm not sure if people know Dr. Cobb and the person, but he was a spectacular person. First and foremost, Dr. Cobb was a great scientist. I am proud, as was said, to be the father of the field of regenerative engineering. I am proud to have received the Spingarn Medal from the NAACP, thank you, where I was very, very proud that the organization declared me the world's foremost engineer, physician, scientist. Okay. Dr. Cobb was a pioneer in social justice, and I am proud to be the founding editor-in-chief of the Journal of Racial and Ethnic Health Disparities, which is the leading journal now in the field in the world. I received the Herbert W. Nickens Award from the American Association of Medical Colleges for promoting social justice and fairness. And I've been the founding chair of the Roundtable on Black Men and Black Women in Science, Engineering, and Medicine of the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. W. Montague Cobb is one of my heroes, and clearly has been one of my inspirations. I first met Dr. Cobb as a first year at the Harvard Medical School. I thought it was remarkable that this larger-than-life figure would take the time to come just to speak to us, young students. From that, I have carried on his mentoring spirit. At that time, Dr. Cobb spoke of his accomplishments. He was unapologetic about his greatness, and I admired that. He spoke about how having both an MD and a PhD prepared him for greatness. Dr. Cobb was bold, he was assertive, and he had intention. In today's terms, he had drip. Now, for the older people in the room, that means he had confidence, charisma, and swagger. My life changed after hearing him speak and after shaking his hand. Following his advice, I graduated from the Harvard Medical School, but also I went to MIT at the same time and got my PhD. When I founded a new institute on health disparities with the National Medical Association 20 years ago, they asked me what I wanted to name it. That was easy. I said, name it after Dr. Cobb. Today, the W. Montague Cobb National Medical Association Health Institute is a vibrant organization in the spirit of Dr. Cobb. So in closing, I thank the NAACP for bestowing this award upon me. But more than that, I thank the NAACP for remembering Dr. William Montague Cobb, the icon. Thank you very much.
Big hand for our national awardee. We are also recognizing two state awardees tonight, Senator Arthur C. Ellis and Dr. Christian Williams Brown. Senator Arthur C. Ellis of Charles County, Maryland, District 28, stands as one of the most consequential health equity champions in the Maryland General Assembly. His signature health equity achievement is his doula services bill, which authorizes Medicaid to cover doula services for eligible mothers in Maryland. Beyond maternal health, Senator Ellis has served on the Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee's Health Subcommittee, working to close disparities as well beyond the delivery room. As a Maryland State Senator, he has introduced 149 bills and co-sponsored 197 bills focused on improving healthcare access, expanding public transportation, supporting veterans, protecting maternal health, and investing in youth programs, and more. Senator Ellis came to this work through the NAACP. He has served as Communications Director of the Charles County NAACP branch before his election to the Maryland Senate. And he was inducted into the Charles County NAACP Hall of Fame in 2018. Senator Ellis, thank you for proving that the work of this organization doesn't end at advocacy, it can become law. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Senator Ellis to the stage.
Good morning, NAACP. It's good to see everyone here this early morning to recognize me. I know you show up just for me this morning, so thank you very much. I want to offer many thanks to the NAACP for this recognition of my work as a Maryland Senator. especially my work in improving the health of Marylanders, especially Black Marylanders. You know, a lot of people tell us that our vote doesn't matter. But I'll tell you this, as the first Black person to represent the entire Southern Maryland region in the Senate of Maryland in almost 400 years, we've made significant improvements in the lives of Marylanders and Black Marylanders. I want to thank Dr. Chris Pinnell and the NAACP Center for Health Equity for doing all the legwork and getting me here today. They're doing a great work for all of the United States of America. Also, I want to congratulate all the honorees for all their great work throughout the entire United States of America. In the state of Maryland, when I became a senator 8 years ago, we had a score of F when it comes to maternal health. Very unacceptable. With the work that we've done in partnership with the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, which is the largest Black caucus in the nation, we've improved that score. We went from an F to almost a B in 8 years. It's possible to make a big difference. And every problem that we have can be overcome, and we can find solutions for it. We just have to work hard to really make sure we can get those solutions done. Some of the bills we have passed required insurance companies and Medicaid to pay for doula services. So do you know what a doula is? Yeah, do you know? How many of you don't know what a doula is? Some say they don't know. Well, doulas are birth coaches. They're with moms so that the entire birthing process, which will help them to have better delivery. So we require Medicaid and insurance companies to pay for doula services in Maryland. In addition, we passed a bill with a very high fiscal note, like $800 million a year, to require everyone in the state of Maryland who need care for cancers and other diseases to get the very best in what you call biomarker testing. You know, our eyes are unique. Our fingerprints are unique. So is our DNA and our response to diseases. So we require first-class health care for our citizens in Maryland. I just want to say also many thanks to all of you and the great work you're doing across the nation. And to my wife who's here, Rosalind, she's my treasurer. She gives me all the money I need to run for office. Rosalind, wave. She allowed me to spend all the family money to run for office to do this great work. So thank you, honey. She doesn't have that Mercedes because I ran for office. She reminds me that she still wants that Mercedes. Our Charles County branch. I know we have some Charles County, Maryland members here today. Okay, okay. I brought my insurance section along with me. Prince George is here too, our neighbors, yes. And so thank you so much for being here. And I want to say that all of you from across the nation have done great work in allowing my life to be so much better. As a veteran, I've traveled across the country. I've lived in places like Mississippi, Biloxi. I've lived in Oklahoma and all over this nation, Virginia, and all over the country. And I see the work the NAACP has done throughout the many years, 117 years. So I say, please continue the great work that you are doing in your states, in your counties, in your towns, because you are making a tremendous difference in this United States of America. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Another big hand for the senator. Our next state awardee is Dr. Christian Williams Brown, who serves as the health chair of the NAACP Alabama State Conference, where she leads efforts to advance health equity. Alabama's in the House, where she leads efforts to advance state health equity, strengthen health education, and promote social justice through advocacy and strategic partnership. She has developed and implemented a comprehensive health agenda addressing the public health challenges that disproportionately impact Black communities and underserved populations across Alabama, prioritizing maternal and infant mortality, HIV/AIDS awareness and stigma reduction, and chronic disease prevention, including heart disease and type 2 diabetes. A key component of her leadership has been active engagement in legislative and policy advocacy, including legislation related to the sex education policy overhaul. In collaboration with organizations such as Alabama Arise, Dr. Williams Brown has advocated for Medicaid expansion, the elimination of tax on groceries, expanded access to no-cost school breakfast programs, and the protection of rural healthcare infrastructure. Dr. Williams Brown, thank you for meeting our community where the need is greatest and for refusing to let geography determine who gets to be healthy. Let's welcome Dr. Williams Brown to the stage. Thank you.
Everyone. I just actually spoke to Chairman Russell, but I want you to know this is what happens when you get voluntold to do something by the chairman. It is truly an honor to stand here before you to receive the 2026 Dr. William Montague Cobb Award for State Health Chair, and I am deeply humbled. I want to say thank you to the National Center for Health Equity for this incredible recognition. While my name may be attached to this award, it shines a light on something much greater than just one individual. Health equity is one of the defining civil rights issues of our generation, not because disease discriminates, but because access to it often does. This recognition also belongs to what I believe is the best health committee in the NAACP, the Alabama State Conference Health Committee. Together, we chose service over accolades, collaboration over competition, and action over excuses as we work to advance health equity across Alabama. Alabama State Conference President Ali gave us our compass with 4 simple words: go save some lives. Health equity can no longer be a conversation held only in hospitals or boardrooms. It must live in our churches, in our schools, in our neighborhoods, wherever people need hope. One of our greatest prides in the Health Committee has been our Alabama Youth and College Division members. Too often, we tell young people they are the leaders of tomorrow, but in Alabama, we chose to make them leaders today because tomorrow isn't promised. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. asked, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? For us, the answer is health equity. Let's continue building healthier communities. Let's continue breaking down barriers. And together, let's go save some lives because a person's health should never determine their worth or dignity. Merci beaucoup. Go Region 5, War Eagle.
So we've seen our national awardee, we've seen our 2 state awardees, and now it's time for this year's individual awardee, who is Dr. Michelle Morse. She deserves all that. From October 2024 to February 2026, Dr. Morse served as the acting commissioner of the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. Under her leadership, New York City achieved historic gains in life expectancy and real reductions in overdose deaths through investments deliberately designed to prioritize equitable health outcomes. Before that, as the department's inaugural chief medical officer, she launched the New York City Public Health Corps, a $100 million investment across more than 100 community-based organizations to partner directly with communities unfairly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. She established a coalition to end racism in clinical algorithms, helping to eliminate race-based clinical care in kidney and health transplants, medicine and maternal health care, and opened the city's first ever Office of Healthcare Accountability and the first neighborhood stress-free zone in New York City to improve maternal health in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Dr. Morse has authored more than 40 scientific articles. Her recent work amplified mitigating medical debt as a public health issue and addressing racial health inequities in life expectancy across U.S. cities. Dr. Morse, we thank you for proving that a city's public health system can be rebuilt block by block in the image of equity. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Michelle Morse.
Good morning, 117th convention of the NAACP. It's an honor to be honored in this way. I have to start by saying thank you to my mom, who is sitting right there, as well as to my grandmom, who's turning 97 years old next week. And to my whole family and friends and ancestors who made such profound sacrifices so that I could be here on the stage with you this morning. It is beyond an honor to be recognized by the NAACP in this way. This is a historic organization founded in 1909 by 2 of my favorite people and many others, Ida B. Wells and W.B. Du Bois. And in 2026, and where we are in this country and in this world, the NAACP has renewed purpose in my eyes. I had the chance to get to see Dr. W.B. Du Bois' home in Accra, Ghana recently, and it gave me such inspiration because I'm a proud Philadelphian, West Philadelphia born and raised. And 127 years ago, W.B. Du Bois published The Philadelphia Negro. It was the first study of its kind, and it showed that there was no problem with Black people. In fact, the health of Black people in Philadelphia, as he described it in 1899, was the result of society choosing not to invest in the Black community, and in fact, choosing to marginalize the Black community. Professor Du Bois' work is just as relevant today, and it's a big part of the reason I do the work of health equity and racial justice that I do. It's an honor to get to continue his work, and I just wish that we did not need to keep fighting the same unfair and avoidable and discriminatory beliefs today that he was fighting against 127 years ago. But with that said, what we know is that the health of Black people will rise and rise intently. And the work of myself and so many of my colleagues who are also honored today, and most importantly, all of you, is the work that is going to lead that change. Finally, I just have to give a special shout out to anyone who has a connection to Haiti. I myself spent many years living and working in Haiti, and as many of you are aware, this Friday, 350,000 Haitians will be losing temporary protected status, and I know the NAACP has been working hard against that. So I want to thank everyone who's been supporting the work to make sure that Haitians who are trying to live safely here in the United States in a very difficult time in Haiti are protected. And 1804 was the year that changed the world, when Haiti was the first ever Black republic. So thank you again for this incredible honor, and thank you to everyone who continues to do this work. Thank you.
Please welcome Iris Sims, Senior Advisor to the President and CEO of the NAACP and founder and principal of S2 Advisors Group.
We the people. I can't imagine a more fitting convention theme for a leader who has never lost sight of exactly that, the people. During my years as Chief of Staff, there was one question I asked almost every convention, and honestly, almost every day. Where's the president? He was needed in the meeting. People were waiting. The program was about to begin. And someone on my team would say, Iris, you know where he is. He's with the people. So to each of you, let me apologize in advance if the president's remarks for your program this week begin a little later than expected, or if your panel starts a few minutes behind schedule. Because somewhere in this convention center, there's probably a young person who's walking away believing their voice matters, because the president of the NAACP stopped to listen. Or there's a lifetime member who never imagined the leader of the nation's oldest and largest civil rights organization would pause long enough to hear their story and take a picture. Over the years, I came to realize something. It wasn't that he was late. Well, y'all, maybe sometimes he was. But it was almost always because he refused to rush past the very people he was called to serve. I had the extraordinary privilege of serving as Chief of Staff to our President and CEO in this great organization. Serving this association has been one of the greatest privileges of my career. My seat gave me a front row view of leadership that very few people ever get to see. What I came to understand is this: who you see on this stage is exactly who he is when the room is empty. I was there for difficult conversations, the impossible decisions, the victories, and the moments no one else gets to see. I watched him walk into rooms where the stakes were highest: state houses, governor's offices, courtrooms, boardrooms, and the halls of Congress. And never forget who sent him there. I watched him answer calls before sunrise and long after midnight, because injustice doesn't operate during normal business hours. And I watched him make the kinds of decisions leaders rarely receive credit for, because the most important leadership decisions happen long after the cameras arrive. But if you ask me what defines Derrick Johnson's leadership, it isn't simply the victories. It's that after every meeting, every interview, every strategy session, he still makes time for the people. Although my role has changed, my respect has only grown. Stepping back has given me an even greater appreciation for what it takes to carry this responsibility every single day. Ladies and gentlemen, a leader who has never mistaken access for influence, never confused position with purpose, and never forgotten that we the people is more than this year's convention theme. It is how he is led. Please stand and join me in welcoming President and CEO of the NAACP, Mr. Derrick Johnson.
Good morning. I want to thank Iris Sims for their kind introduction. As you know, I don't read a speech, but I'm going to have one like I'm going to read it anyway. Their kind introduction as she has made her transition as our Chief of Staff. I had the privilege of working with Iris as she was over events, and I was the convention chair, and I've seen the level of discipline, the level of professionalism that she displayed, so I was honored to have her as my Chief of Staff. Greetings to this body. As we convene here for the 117th Annual Convention. A convention for me is one of the most important junctures of this association because it allows all of our members who were elected as delegates from our units across the country to have a voice in the formation of our policy priorities. We the people. To the chairman, Chairman Russell, to the vice chair, Karen Borkins-Town, to all of the members of the board of directors, to members of the foundation board, our state conference presidents. And let me pause there because Illinois State Conference, I want to thank you for welcoming us to this great state. And not only that, I want to acknowledge your dynamic state president because he has done something that I have not seen. 38 of their 40 units are in good standing. President Pace, thank you for that great work. To our unit officers who are on the ground every day doing the thankless job that you do as a volunteer, would you please stand if you are a unit officer, branch president, secretary, treasurer, committee chair, youth council president, college chapter president. Let's give them a hand. You truly are the backbone of who we are as an association. To Governor Prister, to Mayor Johnson, to all of the members who are here today, to our sponsors, to all of the individuals who have agreed to join us, thank you. I want to apologize to the person who operated the teleprompter because I got a different speech that's up there, so I'm not going to look up there. You could turn that off. We often say that membership is the lifeblood of the association. It has been something that I have heard that my entire journey within this association. It is as true now as it has ever been because all roads lead to November. There's nothing more important than this convening as we prepare to have an impact at the polls because November is the destination. If we don't get that right, to our staff who has worked really hard to put together this convention, if you would stand, if you're an audience. To our new General Counsel, Christian Clark, who have joined us in this effort. I know many of you attended the worship service yesterday morning. And to be honest with you, I wanted to take the recording and put it on the microphone and move my lips as if I was saying it. Because Dr. Moss truly gave us a word. I will never hear the song, "This Little Light of Mine," the same. And I'm sure I can speak for each one of you as you heard him give that wonderful sermon, that you begin to explore your own light to determine whether or not you have a light that you are sharing. I can recall when my wife was chasing me. It was at Tougaloo College. She'll get here tomorrow. She's watching online. My in-laws are here and family are here. So hopefully that kind of blurred out when I said, and I visited her hometown of Magnolia, Mississippi, and her great aunt worked at a nunnery, and in South Mississippi, I think it's the only nunnery before you get to Louisiana, and her great aunt was encouraging us that we should come and join them. And I just told this story in Hayward County with Miss Sweetlove, and we agreed to go, and we sat there, and she wanted us to join because there was a priest that was coming off mission in Africa. And I don't recall what country in Africa he was doing the mission, and you all do know Africa is a continent and not a country, right? I don't recall what village he was staying in. He had been there for 6 months or better, but I do recall his message, which was very similar to the message I heard yesterday morning. And he said he was there and he was noticing that the individuals who was a part of the village, they would greet each other every time they seen one another. And whatever the word was that was loosely translated, the village elder says, it means, I see the Christ in you. I see the power in you. And if this was Dr. Moss' speech yesterday, I see the light in you. And as I was sitting there, I was mesmerized with the story because for many of us who grew up in a Christian faith, we see Christ coming back and not recognize the Christ that's in us. For many of us who pray the same way, we think there's an extraordinary power somewhere else, and we're waiting for that power to come to do the very thing that God has given us to do. And I sat there and I was mesmerized by his presentation. It was a beautiful story, and I was hooked because I realized that I had work to do. As a Detroit native who had moved to Mississippi and got involved with NAACP and sitting in my first meeting in Winston County, Louisville, Mississippi, and not knowing why I was there, because I was only there so I didn't get kicked out of school. And the dorm counselor said, well, if you start NAACP, then I won't kick you out. I said, well, how do I do that? She said, my father is the state president, Aaron Henry. And I got to the meeting, and I didn't know anything about the organization. We had organized the college chapter on campus, and it was a success. And we were doing things that I get to this meeting in Louisville, Mississippi, and they were debating a school consent order. And I'm saying, what is a school consent order? Then it triggered me that, wait a minute, it's 1990. And they're still debating about a school district that was refusing to comply with a Supreme Court decision. And I was amazed. I'm sitting there. I was saying, wow. And then I began to zoom in on the actual people in the room, and then begin and realize that I was reading about these people. It was Aaron Henry who they tried to kill when they assassinated Medgar Evers because he was on a list of 5 people to kill. It was C.C. Bryan who worked for the railroad, and he was a barber, and he was out of Macomb, Mississippi. So when Ella Baker sent Bob Moses down, she sent him to Amzie Moore, and Amzie said, well, me and Aaron got our programs, sent them to C.C., and they built out what we now know as a successful Student Non-Violent Coordinating Committee and the Mississippi Project because of the NAACP, the platform they stood on. And as the conversation kept going, it was a medical doctor by the name of Gilbert Mason, and he was probably the smartest person in the room, definitely, or that I have ever met. And he began to talk in point of orders, and people would be quiet when he spoke because he spoke with such elegance. He was a genius, and I had just read about how he had integrated the Biloxi Beach. And I'm from Detroit. I had never been to Mississippi before. A cultural experience that I would never exchange. And I'm sitting there, and then there was a woman on the wall, leaning on her stick, Winston Hudson. She and her twin sister, W. Hudson, NAACP leaders in Harmony, Mississippi, and you couldn't come to Harmony, Mississippi at night around that corner because if they didn't recognize the car, they would shoot you. A Mississippi that was rough, it was tumble. I'm talking about a Mississippi in 1950 and 60 where there was no respect of rights or people, because if you did not look like they thought you looked, they had license to kill you, and if you made too much noise, they had license to kill you, and many, many people fled the state because it was so hard. Hopelessness reigned the land. And I sat there and I was in awe. And I was hooked. Some of you have heard the story before, but connecting that story with me going to that nunnery, I seen the light in them. I seen the Christ in them, because what they were doing was fighting for the rights of others and putting their lives at risk. Part of a generation that are moving on fast. It was so amusing to me yesterday when Dr. Moss finished his speech and Amos Brown jumped up. Thought he was going to dunk a basketball. He jumped up and he had his arms raised and he went towards Dr. Moss, and I started to go and say something. I backed up because I felt bad because Dr. Brown ain't never jumped up at me when I gave a speech. That's all right, Doc. I love you anyway. And then I realized they were Morehouse men, and you know when two Morehouse men get together, they get in the corner, get to hugging on each other, so I ain't got nothing to do with that. I mean, the Morehouse is something. But Dr. Brown represents that generation with Aaron Henry. In fact, he doesn't even represent that generation because he was a youth to them. That generation were World War II veterans who decided to stay in the South and fight and not come here to Chicago as they were mentoring that next generation, which was Dr. Brown's generation. This movement is a continuum. There is no stop and starting place. It is us creating space for all of us. There is no us versus us. We must embrace the intergenerational model that has made us successful so far. It's good to be in Chicago. This city truly shines in the summertime. It's a beautiful city in the summertime. Don't come in the wintertime, but it's a beautiful city in the summertime. And as a Detroiter who lives in Mississippi, I view Chicago out of unique lenses. On the one hand, when folks found out I live in Mississippi, they start speaking about home. They talk about spending summers in Mississippi. They start naming places and people and ask me, do you know such and such from Shibuya, Mississippi? Because you know, everybody in Mississippi is supposed to know each other. But then with the other lens, I'm a Detroiter. And Detroit and Chicago have a special relationship. We're competitive. And I'm one to tell you that that team that y'all celebrate would not have won a championship until y'all stole our players. But seriously, it's a pleasure to be here because Chicago is an important place for our history. I'm going to try to be brief, but I ramble and pray for me. It's a special place in our history founded by a Black Haitian who explored and came up here and established a trading port. Can you imagine if he came here now with TPS, he would get deported? Chicago's a special place. Special place because it's almost the crossroads of the Midwest. It was the destination where people had to migrate to in pursuit of freedom. It's a special place. It's a place where the theme is true, we the people. And I'm sure many of you have heard the preamble to the Constitution before, we the people, but it's an important theme for this year. If you're unfamiliar with the preamble to the Constitution is a supreme law. It is the law of the land. It is a document that structurally holds this democracy together. It lays out the framework of the government. It grants rights. It provides protections for citizens of this country and due process rights for non-citizens. We the people. And I know this Constitution doesn't seem like it because this president doesn't respect it. Because Congress seeks to go around it. And the current Supreme Court will contort itself and its integrity to justify inconsistent rulings with the Supreme Court. But it is an important document. The founding fathers of this country spent many hours thinking on what to include, what to say, how to say it. Almost every word or phrase was debated before it was included in the document. So you have to believe that a tremendous amount of thought went into starting this important document with we the people. Of course, you know, we wasn't included in the we the people when they framed it. And the people they referred to were not Black, and more than likely there wasn't any one of the people in this room that's now considered white, because he wasn't Anglo-Saxon Protestant, you wasn't included either. Even though Africans was in this country over 200 years before the framing of that document. We built this joint for free, as my friend would say. And if you think about that document and the other document written by Thomas Jefferson, when it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you take these two documents, you look at the preamble, we the people, and we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that has been the mission of the association for 117 years, to hold this nation true to those commitments. It was a work of Frederick Douglass, who understood the inconsistency of those documents as it applied to Africans on this continent. Frederick Douglass recognized that inconsistency could not hold water. And that's why he was the advocate that he was, and he was very clear, and he recognized that how people seen Black men is how we were treated in public policy, so he was the most photographed during this time. And as we do our work as an association, it's important for us to see us, our light, our power, because we are once again being called to save this democracy. A democracy that has not always been kind to us. A democracy that has always tried to figure out how to go around us. A democracy that has perverted itself to let capital control it to exploit us. And yet we are here at this place as the most loyal, dedicated citizens this country has ever seen. It is hard to think about Chicago without thinking about Isabel Wilkerson's book, and if you have not read it, please read it. What Wilkerson does in the book is to put stories behind black folks who were leaving the South for better opportunities in the North or in the West, including almost 500,000 black folks who came to Chicago, primarily from Mississippi. That's why we call this North Mississippi. The stories range from desperate individuals who had to jump on trains in the middle of the night so they would not be lynched, to individuals who had to leave their loved ones behind in hopes that they could make a way for their loved ones to join them. The goal was to get to the promised land because they had hope. They had a belief that at some point they can work hard and do the right thing, and at some point they will be recognized as human beings with rights. And for many of them who got here, they realized that the hope that attracted them to Chicago wasn't always that pleasant. Because they were met with limited housing, hostile white folks, and exploitative job opportunities. Sound like the South to me. But despite all of this, they stayed. They sent more of our people here to join, and they left the Carolinas, and they went to New York and Philadelphia, and they left the deep south of Alabama and parts of Tennessee, and they went to Detroit. They left from Texas and Louisiana. They went to LA, all in pursuit of this promise of a constitution, we the people. In fact, it was in Chicago that gave the nation the opportunity to see Jesse Jackson. And Jesse Jackson knew this story, and he began to implant in many of us this concept of keep hope alive. And despite him fighting through Reaganomics and trying to carve out a place for us at the business table to make money, at the voting booth to cast a ballot, and anywhere we exist to be respected as human beings, he will always say, keep hope alive. And it's through this hope that we realize that we have to lean to each other and not away from each other so that we can resist the forces that are against us, because us plus one, we are victorious. What frustrates me more than anything else is when we get into the deficit mindset or the scarcity mentality, as if we are fighting against each other or it's not enough for us, when in fact our success, our solutions rely on all of us together. It's embedded on our name. We are the national, meaning we are in all across the country except 3 states, Idaho, Montana, and North Dakota. If you got any cousins there, tell them to join. We are an association. We are here associated with each other, building relationships, trading information, learning together for the advancement of our people. That's who we are. We have to lean to each other, not from each other. And sometime in our branch meetings, we're talking about the napkins on the table and not the public policy at the school board. But we were not the only one attracted to hope. Millions of Italians immigrated to Chicago to escape poverty, overpopulation, war, famine in the 1880s and 1940s. Irish immigrants flocked to Chicago to escape starvation from the Great Potato Famine, extreme poverty, and oppression in the 1840s. Appalachian indigenous and whites. People migrated to Chicago to escape poverty and exploitation in the coal mines and find economic opportunities in the 1940s through the 70s. And Jewish immigrants fled to Chicago to escape ethnic and religious persecution at the hands of Soviet Russia and Nazi Germany in the 1880s and right after and during World War II. In fact, none of those immigrants who came here were considered white. None of them were considered white. And can you imagine if this administration was empowered then? They would be sending ICE agents raiding the Jewish community and ICE agents raiding the Italian community and ICE agents raiding, you fill in the blank, when in fact Stephen Miller come from the Jewish community, so he'd be sending ICE agents to raid his own family. Trump's grandfather was an illegal immigrant. And here we are diminishing the rights that are guaranteed in our Constitution with illegal searches and seizures. Here we are diminishing the framing of the Constitution with taking away one's First Amendment right to speak. And here we are ignoring our Constitution, not providing those same, quote, immigrants with due process rights that they are entitled to. This nation, we are at a juncture, an inflection point, because what's at stake goes far beyond what I think many of us recognize. That have always said that when democracy is weak, capital exploit. And the goal of this administration is to continue to weaken the democracy, we the people, so the capital can take advantage not just of black folks, because the farmers in Iowa has lost their market share in China, and they ain't gonna get it back. The farmers in Oklahoma who were MAGA voted for their own demise. The working class individuals in areas and people who don't share our culture are at a tipping point because they realize that they did, what's the saying, the leopard has ate my face? And so here we are, an association where we're gonna have to overperform in November to save a democracy that has not always been kind to us. Reverend Jesse Jackson was a phenomenal leader. He was visionary, he was inspiring. And it was good to see Jonathan Jackson and Yusef and the family continue that legacy. Reverend Jackson did something that was extraordinary. He registered more people in the decade of the 1980s than anybody else. He created a space where people felt as if they had a purpose, a cause that they were fighting for. It's important for us to continue that legacy about what are we fighting for. Because if we and when we save this democracy, we can't go back to what was. Because what was imperfect. Once we shift things in November, we need to demand more of our elected officials, including members of the Congressional Black Caucus. At the end of the day, this game we have been playing, it isn't working. That we have to lean in differently and begin to build out stuff differently, because November is only a stopping point. If we slow it down, it doesn't stop them. The real question in NAACP, what are we going to build to make sure we protect ourselves looking forward? We have to start producing our own food. I was just in Europe and I was eating and I was like, this food tastes good and it's different. And I realized that the reason why it was tasting different is because they don't allow all the chemicals in their food that we are allowing in our food. That the high rates of diabetes isn't hereditary as people try to tell us, it's because they're putting too many sugars and high fructose cornstarch and all that stuff in our food. We're eating too much processed food. We have to start producing our own food. When in November, we can't accept what they tell us is a standard. We must create the standard. And as I stand here this morning in Mississippi, there are those who are attending a funeral for a young man who simply went, he thought, on a trip with friends, only for him to be unalived. Reverend George Lee was an NAACP leader in Belzona, Mississippi. And he was fighting for our rights. And in Belzona, Mississippi in the 50s, he would call for demonstrations, and in this little small town, 15,000 people would show up. He was a powerhouse until they assassinated him. And they never did a proper investigation to determine who did the murder. They ignored his human essence. They were threatened by him, and to this day, his murder is still unsolved. Northern Wales, young, aspiring basketball player, simply went to go have fun, and to this day, the authorities have not properly investigated the cause of his death. What's old is new, and what's new is old. Scottsboro boys were falsely accused of raping a white woman, and they had a kangaroo trial, and they were put in jail for a crime that later found out they didn't commit, but they spent the rest of their life in jail. One of our early cases in Texas, Carmelo Anthony, had a kangaroo court case, and now this young man, 17 years old and sitting in jail. What's old is new, and what's new is old. Thank God for people who came together, Angela Rye and Gary Blesso and others now representing him, and hopefully he get a fair trial. What I'm saying is the fight is plentiful. There are a lot of examples across the country that the fight that they were doing in 1950 with those individuals I met when I first got started, the NAACP, is still the fight today. So I'm going to close with one more story to bore you to death. I was sitting at home and I was watching the show. And I don't recall what show it was because I like to watch mindless stuff just because it's a lot. And something popped up and I said, you know what? We are all we got. This is it. This is us. We are all we got. And I was watching one of those mindless shows because I was frustrated about a meeting, and I don't know if it was related to NAACP or something else I was a part of, and I paused. I said, why am I dealing with that? Why am I majoring in the minor when I need to be focusing on the major? Too often we get caught up in majoring in the minor. We're afraid to embrace things that are new or shift cultures or recognize that too many people are depending on us for us to be dealing with foolishness of yesterday. We the People is the theme of this conference, but it's the theme of this conference because where there were a few people in 1950 with enough courage and common sense to fight, it's a lot of us now. But the key words is courage and common sense. And the problem is enough of us that have both. Because I know a lot of courageous people that's stupid. I was trying to find another word for that, but stupid came up. And I know a lot of people with common sense, but they have no courage. The challenge for us today as an association, as individuals, are we prepared to have both courage and common sense? Are we prepared to put aside old grievances that are minor and focus on the major of November's election? Are we prepared to recognize that the power that we have is all that we need? Are we prepared to look at our neighbor and say, I see the Christ in you. I see the power in you. Are we prepared to leave from this conference and recognize our responsibility to do more of what we're doing to ensure our future is as bright and prosperous as any other future can be? To recognize that we have to get away from a us versus us paradigm. No young versus old, no male versus female, only us for us. Because at the end of the day, we are all that we got. Peace and power.
Voters. Over the weekend, the NAACP made its biggest midterm investment in history. The civil rights group rolled out a $20 million Get Out the Vote campaign on the nation's 250th birthday. This campaign specifically targets infrequent voters. It's aiming to increase black voter turnout, similar to the 2008 and 2012 elections of President Barack Obama. For more on this investment, I'm joined now by the head of the campaign, Dominic Whitehead. He is the chief of Field Membership Growth and Unit Sustainability for the NAACP. Dominic, thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. We do appreciate it. I know this campaign is on par with what the NAACP spent in the 2024 presidential election, but it's almost double what the organization spent in the 2022 midterms. Typically, organizations spend less in the midterms. Why did you feel compelled to try and invest so much more in this midterm cycle?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. The reason we wanted to increase and double our impact this midterm election cycle, since the 2024 presidential election cycle, the top of 2025, and with this current administration, we have continued to see an attack on our democracy. We have continued to see attack on Black Americans across this country. And so for the NAACP, it was our priority to ensure that we are, one, engaging and educating voters across the country, but two, making sure we're doubling down in the right way to ensure that we have a Congress that can pass legislation that matters to Black and brown folks, a Congress that will uphold democracy in this Constitution in this country, because we're seeing what's happening with this current administration.
Please welcome Chief of Field Membership Growth and Unit Sustainability of the NAACP, Dominic Whitehead, and National Campaign Director of the NAACP, Tyler Sterling.
Good morning, NAACP. No, we can do better than that. Good morning, NAACP. Are we fired up? Are we ready to go? We got some work to do this election cycle, NAACP. As it was just said by our president and CEO, all roads for us lead to November. Our units across the country, our national civic engagement team is doing the work day in and day out to ensure that we are ready to go and ready to fight to make sure we turn out over 6.5 million Black voters this election cycle. 6.5 million black voters across this country. But we cannot do that without each of you. We're going to be recruiting over 20,000 volunteers this year. Over 20,000 volunteers. Many of those volunteers are all of you in this room, right? Many of those volunteers are all of you in this room, right? Because we know what's at stake this election cycle, right? The president talked a moment ago about the Voting Rights Act, right? We talked about the work that we've seen and the attacks that we've seen in southern states across the country. You name it, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. Well, we've been fighting back and doing the work, but it's time for us this November to fight back at the ballot box so we can continue to do the work in community after community and state after state, city and city across this country. I'm going to bring up Mr. Tyler Sterling, our National Civic Engagement and Campaigns Director, to walk through how we're going to do that this election cycle. Tyler.
Good morning, everyone. Those of you that have been on calls with me and know that I love a countdown, we are 106 days from this election. That's right, 106 days until we, the people, show and send a message that we will not continue on this free fall from freedom, that we, the people, are going to send representatives to Washington, to state houses, to school boards, to city councils that will prioritize black community and protect black voting rights. And how we will get there is through the program that you see on our screen. Our program and priorities. Dominic just mentioned that we are recruiting 20,000 volunteers, and he said those 20,000 volunteers, many of you are in this room. We're going to turn out 6.5 million black voters, and it comes from training our members and our strategic partners. What we will also do is not only turn out those voters, but ensure that that vote is protected, and that vote needs to be protected and cast successfully. So that is through election protection. Where we will do this work and how we get there, while every election is of vital importance, our pathway to progress is through the House of Representatives. The pathway to progress, again, is through the House of Representatives. You see these key districts up here, and this is where the work is mobilizing and happening. But we can't get to our pathway to progress without a playbook. And so we think about our playbook. Our playbook is our suite of programs at the NAACP, our specific playbook to mobilizing and getting out the vote. That is all things messaging and research and narrative. When we think about that, I don't want to wake up on November 4th and have political pundits, often many of them who do not look like this room, tell us how black voters engaged in this election cycle. So it is on each and every one of us in this room and those unable to attend to make sure that we are selling the narrative and pushing the narrative at how our communities are showing up in this moment. And how we get there, every good playbook needs some training. And so throughout this election cycle, the NAACP campaigns team, myself, Leader Amari Fenoy, Leader Pepper Triplett, and Leader Brandon Johnson have been doing democracy summits. And these democracy summits, yes, clap if you've attended a virtual or an in-person democracy summit. Okay. That's my squad that was with us a few days ago. These trainings are of vital importance for how we are mobilizing, how we are gathering, convening, not only NAACP members and units, but our strategic partners, our allies, and our communities that are looking for change. And so we held a virtual democracy summit where we gave the tools, the resources, the tactics, the strategizing and fellowship to be outside of these little Zoom boxes and really engaging, but also making sure that we are sticking to the plan to ensure that we turn out 6.5 million black voters this year. And so we had that virtual democracy summit. Yes, go ahead and give a round of applause. We had that virtual democracy summit, and then we had our in-person democracy summit. And without a playbook to progress, without the trainings, we're not going to see that victory. And so we would not be the campaigns and civic engagement team and the field in general if we did not have a call to action. So I'll ask Chief Whitehead to give us our charge.
Let's give it up for Mr. Tyler Sterling and his team that's doing amazing work to turn out 6.5 million black voters. Natala just said we got 108 days. Say 108. 108 days into the election. We do not want to look back and say we didn't do all that we could do in terms of this election cycle. So take out your phones. We all got one. Some folks are probably on Instagram and Facebook, shopping while we're in this room. Take out your phones. For us to reach 6.5 million black voters this election cycle, we need everybody in this room to knock on doors, to make phone calls, to send text messages, to write postcards, to hold GOTV activations at your units, bringing in community, holding town halls. It's going to take all of us to take this country back and ensure that we have a democracy that works for black folks and all people in this country. So I'm asking folks right now to text volunteer to 20707. And I'm going to say it again for you. Text volunteer to 20707. And then we have a QR code right here. Really easy. And sign up with us. Sign up with your community. Sign up with your units. Get on these doors. Make these phone calls. Send these text messages so we can win. We want to win, right? We want to win, right? When we fight, let's go. Let's get to work, everybody. November, we can do it.
Please welcome to the stage Dr. Dwayne Proctor, Chair of the NAACP Foundation Board.
Good afternoon. Again. For 25 years, I've worked in the world of philanthropy, helping others do great jobs, and I serve now as the NAACP's Foundation's Chair. We have a great leader. Her name is Garnisha Azzadario, who is at Bloomberg Philanthropies. She runs the Greenwood Institute at Bloomberg Philanthropies and cannot be with us today because of the fires in Canada and the weather in New York. We will miss her. However, the NAACP is very grateful for the support of Bloomberg Philanthropies. So thank you very much.
Please welcome Dr. Stephen Brown, Director of Insights and Evidence of the Aspen Institute.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all feeling? Good. So, let me get into the mic. There you go. Is that better? All right, great. So I am here today to talk to you about wealth, right? That's a little dollar amount that we all need. It is essential to our lives, and talk to you a little bit about how important it is for it to endure for ourselves and for our families. So what is wealth for, right? So Pew conducted this survey that asking people about what does the American dream look like for them, or in other words, what are the components, the aspects of a good, prosperous life, right? And for them, Americans told us what's important to them is house, retirement, family, community, freedom, right? The things that people have listed as important to them and their sense of American dream, their sense of a prosperous life, are all things that we need wealth to directly purchase or facilitated by wealth, right? Funny enough, at the bottom of this slide, being wealthy is not necessarily the goal that most people have for their life. But what they do want, all the pieces, are things that wealth provides, that wealth facilitates. Like, this is what wealth is. These are the components of wealth. This is why it's important to us, right? And this is, just to be clear, this is different from income, right? Income is the job, the money you get from your job to pay for your bills. But wealth is how we pay for our life. And so how many people have the wealth that they need? So this has been a project that my team at the Aspen Institute have been doing for the past several years. We've come up with a way to kind of define this really sharply. So if we know that having a wealth is essential to our thriving, essential to all the stuff on that first slide, like, can we put a number to it? How do we know what is enough? How much is enough? And so briefly, we find 4 levels. So at the bottom, we have asset poverty, which is basically just the poverty line, but for wealth. And at the top, we have what we call essential wealth, meaning that you have all the financial resources that you need, plus a little extra, or you're on the path to having those financial resources. Some people might call it being comfortable, right? So this is not, Jeff Bezos' crazy money. This is really about, like, what does it take to be comfortable? And to figure out, like, who has what, we define this in a couple different ways. Do you have emergency savings? Do you have the assets, the resources to attain and maintain to attain and maintain the big stuff, the house, the retirement, those things? And do you have the self-reported peace of mind, the comfort that comes along with having real financial security? So if you have those three things, right, then you have essential wealth. Only one quarter, 26% of American households, all households, have this. Most people, what we find, do not have the resources for a good life. And the largest single group of these folks, the 43% in the middle, right, they've gotten out of the asset poverty, they've gotten out of having enough, but they're not yet to that stable, resilient tier of having enough financial resources to have a good life, right? These are folks who have a good job, but maybe not a lot of savings or assets, or people who have the house, the 401k, but they're maybe being held back by student loans, right? They're doing the right things, but they haven't broken through yet. And so what does this mean for us? Just 3 quick points I want to apply today around possibility, progress, and protection. Possibility, right? So that first couple slides ago, I showed you the distribution, what it looks like for all households in the country. But next to it is the bar, what it looks like for black folks, right? And what it tells us is that there's a lot more black folks in the asset poverty, that blue bucket down to the bottom, 30%. And there's a lot fewer of us in that top bar, 7%, having essential wealth. So what does this mean? So this echoes some stats that you've all probably, or most of you have probably seen around the racial wealth gap. This is telling a very similar story. And this work adds to that work by putting real dollar amounts, by telling us, which are not shown, but I can, if you have questions about it, feel free to come up and find me. But it asks you by adding some real dollar amounts about how much a household needs. We want to close this gap. But in order to do that, while we're closing the racial gap, we want to just make sure that we just don't close the gap, but in the process that all families have the resources and the wealth they need to have a good financial life. And all of this is just telling us, is giving us a sense, a clue into what fairness or unfairness looks like now and what the possible futures. What does it look like for us to move up this ladder? What does it look like for families to be able to have the house, to save for retirement, to be in a really strong financial situation? What does it look like for families to have essential wealth, right? So only a quarter have essential wealth. That's not good enough. And it's certainly not good enough that 1 in 12 black households have it, right? So everyone deserves the opportunity to get what they want and they need. That's freedom, financial and otherwise. So progress, second point. So black wealth continues to grow. This is the amount, right? So this slide shows us the amount of the wealth that a typical black household has, and showing us over from 1989 to 2022. And at 2022 we had $45,000, which for a typical black household, which is a lot to some, not a lot to others. But I think in most cases it's not enough. But rather than the dollar amount, what I want you to focus on is the progress, like the movement, right? So we went up, Great Recession, a lot of folks lost a lot of wealth. But since then we've been moving on this upward trajectory, right? At this peak where we are right now is the highest amount of household wealth that black families have had in a couple of generations. Like, this is progress. This is the thing that we're building towards. This is the movement that we're trying to take advantage of, right? The people in this room are making progress, and progress that everyone should be working hard to protect and to build upon. And so what's on the other side of that progress, right? We also need to protect it. So there are black households hold $3.2 trillion in total wealth, right? Trillion with a T. Over half of that wealth is held in real estate, $1.8 trillion, right? And so for so many folks, right, that house is not only your first asset, it's your biggest asset. So it's no surprise that so much of our wealth is held in real estate. But $41 billion, right? So this $41 billion is the number at the bottom. This is the amount of black-owned property wealth that is at risk of tangled title or heirs property issues. And so what that means is, you pass away, or a family member passes away, they don't have a partner or a spouse, and they have multiple heirs. Without a will, that property that is at risk of a speculator coming in in buying that property for pennies on the dollars. And this is just one way in which Black people's wealth, the wealth they've been working so hard to build, the wealth we've been working so hard to build over generations, is currently at risk. And it's not the only risk. There are predatory lenders in the reverse mortgage space who are trying to take this wealth from us. There are frauds and scams on your phone or in your bank account or even from a family member. And there's also this other aspect of where people's wealth is getting lost with from if you're a business owner and you built a business that you've worked really hard for, there's also a chance that when you're ready to move on, that you can't find a buyer. You can't find a buyer at a fair price. That's another risk that Black families and Black households are working through as they try to build and maintain and hold on to their wealth, right? And so without question, we still have to keep building. There's so much work to be done around continuing to build Black wealth. But then there's also, on the other side, like being able to maintain it and hold on to it. We can't keep climbing the ladder if we're losing steps. At some point, the ladder gets unstable and we're at risk of falling off. So as we build, we also need to be trying to protect. And so this is the main point I want to leave y'all with. Wealth is meant to be built. Wealth is meant to be spent. It is not meant to be lost, right? So we're building, we're spending, and when we spend it, right, we are spending it on our families, we're spending on our retirements, on our health, on our businesses, on our children's education. Like, that's part of it. It's not all just kind of sitting in a bank. Part of it is it gives us the resources to be able to live our lives that act on that freedom we are meant to have, but it's not meant to be lost. When you can't sell the business, when a speculator takes your property, when you get frauded, right? Those are the risks that we're trying to guard against. And so what comes next, right? So there's a panel that's following me directly, and you can ask them about what, because I only had so much time to give y'all today, and so I couldn't get into all the details about what comes next. But seriously, this is a collective challenge that we need all hands to solve, right? We have to recognize and reinforce the points of progress where we've been winning, where things have gone well. And there's also some individual family stuff that has to come into play here too, right? There's the wills, the estate plans, the succession plans, the beneficiaries. All these are little things that each of us can do to help protect it. But then there's the big stuff, right? We have to be able to push for solutions and systems level changes that really promote progress, the continued progress, and to prevent theft of our wealth at scale, right? It's just structural pieces of how we've been building, how we've been prevented from building. And so when we do finally make that run, we finally make that progress, wanting to be able to make sure that those same structural forces aren't taking that wealth from us, just as we reach that top rung. And so with that, I'm closing there. Just one last point. I'll lose my slides. But just to close, wealth is essential and worth protecting. You deserve it. And you deserve to have it, you deserve to preserve it for your financial security, for your freedom and your agency, and for our children's collective flourishing. So thank you so much for your time, and I welcome the next panel up.
Please be advised the membership luncheon will begin at the end of this session. Lunch will begin at the end of this session. Coming up next is our first panel, We the People Owning Our Wealth, Owning Our Future, moderated by Angela Rye, host, author, advocate, and lawyer, featuring Derek Hamilton, Dr. Lakeisha Key Hallman, and Mr. Jamal Watkins.
Good morning, NAACP. Can I hear me? Can y'all hear me? All right. We would love that music, but we heard y'all are hungry, so we're going to jump right in. Thank you all so much for being here. You know, I want to start somewhere slightly controversial, Dr. Derek. You know, there were these accounts rolled out earlier this year called Trump accounts for children. And I think what is so important here is just like some of y'all's friends colonize everything else, this was a colonized idea that was born out of something you created, baby bonds, a brainchild of yours. And so I just for a moment want to dispel these myths, because I think if we're going to talk about wealth, we can't do that without talking about the deficit that is created when you're born in a Black body in this country. So I think it's so important for you to set the record on baby bonds.
Angela jumps right into it, and we ready. So there's no pause, right? No, I'll set the stage real quick with a couple of things, then get right into it, which is, what is the purpose of wealth? This convention and everything, a lot of it is grounded in freedom. The purpose and point of wealth is to have agency in your life. If you're faced with an expensive legal system, a health risk, if you're vulnerable at work, if you want to leave a bequest to your children, you do so with wealth, not income. Income is vital and important, but we need wealth. And if we look at the ways in which people generate wealth, it is wealth that begets wealth. It is the capability of having an asset in a home, in a business, in a debt-free college education that puts you in a managerial or professional occupation. It is in those instruments that wealth grows passively. But yet we have a narrative in America that if you just work hard and save, you're able to generate wealth. That's not really how wealth is generated in America, if we're real. So baby bonds is designed to address that. Baby bonds recognizes that it is a birthright to capital. It is having a foundation when you're a young adult to be able to get a down payment for a home so that you can benefit from the passive appreciation of a home. Well, the Trump administration has recognized that baby bonds is gaining a great deal of momentum. It's understanding that as states like Connecticut begin to implement baby bonds, that we're realizing that seeding a young adult with some assets to accumulate wealth is well grounded in American history. What is problematic is that Black people have been excluded. We can look at the GI Bill. I'm gonna be quick, I promise. Let me get to it. So the fundamental difference between what the Trump accounts do versus baby bond is the design. The feature for the Trump accounts, don't be distracted by that $1,000 seed. Put that $1,000 seed in context. That $1,000 seed in the context of a $4 trillion bill that was passed last year that transferred by way of our tax code trillions of dollars to wealthy and elite individuals versus this $1,000 seed that goes to newborns. Not poo-pooing it, but don't be distracted by it, because the main mechanism to grow the accounts, the Trump accounts, is a tax-preferred savings plan. Your parents are allowed to contribute up to $5,000 into these Trump accounts per year. Well, what are we facing in America right now? An affordability crisis. Who has the capacity to save for their children but those with higher incomes? We've seen this game before. I got to be quick, so I'm going to put a button on it. But I can go through and tell you about the regressive 529 accounts. The fundamental difference between Trump accounts and baby bonds is that baby bonds recognizes that it is wealth that begets wealth, and it ensures in a progressive way that all our young people have the benefits of a capital foundation and is not reliant on something that's going to enhance inequality, which is further tax subsidies that are geared towards those with resources to begin with.
Yeah. I think it's so important when we consider Trump policy, it didn't come out of nowhere. I know Senator Harry Reid, when he was still alive, said that Donald Trump was the Republican Party's Frankenstein, right? And so what I think is also important is for us to understand that historically, we have been set back from the very beginning. When you consider the moments where we said, okay, you know what, we'll go out and build our own, from Rosewood to Greenwood, they've also sought to destroy those things. Now they're not setting fire to our communities, but they are setting fire to policy that would benefit our communities. So you look at Donald Trump's EEOC right now. Donald Trump's EEOC has a public service announcement that almost reads like the following. Are you a white man who has experienced any type of racial discrimination? You may have a cause for compensation, right? That's what they're doing now. They're going out to appeal to the worst among us, to discrimination that does not exist, to cause us further harm. Dr. Key, you have advised mayors, other elected officials, even the Fearless Fund on how to fight back against these things, to build for ourselves, to create for ourselves. When you consider Maynard Jackson, given you now live in Atlanta, the fact that Maynard Jackson was able to use policy to help to create wealth for Black people, These are the very things they're now seeking to destroy. So the Department of Transportation's DBE program, I don't know how many of you all have government contracts, but it's been impacted. You're working against the system to ensure that we use co-op models to build up our communities like Maynard Jackson did, like the Greenwoods of the country. Talk to us about why that's so important to double down what they're doubling down.
Yes, I am so grateful for Mayor Maynard Jackson's vision, tenacity, and the ability to implement infrastructure that I benefited from. In April of this year, I opened my retail store, The Village Retail, at the world's busiest airport. Folks from Chicago, don't be mad at us. Atlanta's airport. That was only done, it was only possible because of ACDBE, airport concessions, disadvantaged businesses. If this rolls back, and it has, if I try to open this airport location in 2026, 2027, 2028, it would be even harder for me to do so. So when we think about the impact of policy, I also want us to think about the impact of tenacity. He had the tenacity to put it in place so many years in the future. I would benefit from that. I benefit from that. My store occupies over 35 different Black businesses at the world's busiest airport. So when we think about from a local level what we need to do to build generational wealth, the model that I have created is a collective model. When I open in the airport, when I open at Ponce City Market, a Google visitor experience in California, 30 to 40 Black businesses are coming with me. And so going back to Maynard's vision and implementation, I'm hoping when you all go back to your cities and back to your communities that we start to demand a collective methodology. So when we open these businesses and these enterprises, many can come with us so it's not one individual. Because Angela, I can't imagine where we will be 10 to 15 years from now if we continue to adopt the models of individualism. I cannot imagine where we would be 10 to 15, 20 years from now if we still, and Derek said it earlier, this me is only about me. So while we want to talk about, and we're going to go deeper in this conversation about all the things that's in place to get us and have us push back, the reason why Greenwood and Tulsa was attacked is because it was effective. You don't attack something that doesn't work. So we need to understand that it works. Do not be afraid to replicate, to build again, because the durability of what happened in Tulsa, and we read about it in the history books, we're living in the evidence of it today. So do not be dismayed about the rollback of certifications. We, the people informs what happens in our communities, what opens at our airports, what opens on Main Street. Psychological warfare is quite effective. It would take the certification and tell you that it's taking your promise. That is psychological warfare. In the opening comments, I heard the speaker say, I need us to protect our minds. And when you protect your mind, you protect your will. And when you protect your will, you protect the people. And so we must continue to build against these systems. And as Angela said, we must name it. But naming it doesn't mean that we must stop working and building and doing for ourselves. Self-determination is why we are here.
That's good. I want to go to you, Jamal. And I actually also want to go to the audience. If you all look around, not to the empty seats next to you, but just look to the sides of the room. Because some of your friends left, they were hungry, I get it. But if you look at the size of this room, Jamal, this is a significantly smaller footprint than what you normally see at an NAACP opening plenary. And I think that goes right to the cause of the harm, the economic harm. There are people who are NAACP, loyal NAACP folks who couldn't afford to come, right? We understand. Who couldn't afford to come because of the economic harms being exacted by this administration and because of historic harms that preceded this administration. In the face of that, you're being charged with having to raise money for the nation's largest and oldest civil rights organization. That doesn't happen without we the people, to Dr. Key's point. So I want to just for a moment sit in what it means for us to give out of our lack, for us to prove our worthiness to funders, and what that feels like in this moment when it's like, hello, it's so obvious. Do you not see these policies that are coming out that are blatantly anti-Black? How are you solving for that? I think there are a lot of people in here representing their local chapters, their regions, who want to know, how do we raise in an environment that feels like it is causing us harm with all deliberate speed?
No, thank you, Angela. Good afternoon or good morning, NAACP. I'm gonna say that again, good morning, NAACP. The reason, afternoon, okay.
They're correcting you, they're like, it's afternoon, we hungry, Jamal.
That means y'all are awake. And that is the secret to what Angela is lifting up. When we think about this room and rooms like this, I was raised in a community where there were poets like Calvin Brodus, let me get comfortable, who said,
Calvin.
with my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Anybody know that?
Keep going,
Now there's some young people in this room who are listening to another poet who is talking about spending that, or spend that. When we think about the economics of our community, it is clear that it is rooms like this that have to shake the tables and shift the powers that be to really put money in the pockets of hardworking men and women in our community. As Angela, you know this, plain and simple, the minimum wage hasn't been changed in decades. Does anybody know how much minimum wage is in this country federally?
$7.50?
$7.25. Who can live off of $7.25 an hour? Who can afford a plane ticket off of $7.25 an hour? When we think about the fight, we want to go back to the basics. We want to make sure that it doesn't take you to have a PhD, an economics degree. You don't have to be an investment banker to understand this thing. We are literally talking about dollars and cents and making it make sense. For example, the NAACP is recently standing with folks like Congressman Jackson, who you heard from earlier, Senator Chris Murphy, who are literally fighting to raise the minimum wage. That's something we all can do when we go home, literally when we leave this facility, is advocating for a policy shift that says, if we need $25 an hour minimum and it's indexed to something greater, let's fight for that. And it doesn't take us to have an economics degree and to unpack Wall Street to know that $7.25 don't cut it. And so when we're thinking about the power of this room and rooms like this, we have to demonstrate to the politicians that we are asking and demanding change, and it starts at a very baseline of shifting what government can do to change how our economic policies are impacting us at home.
I think that's so good. And even the philosophical tie-in of Spin That, which I appreciate. I want to come back to you, Dr. Hamilton, because I think it's so important for us to also think about the framing. When we talk about our economic power, it is normally within the confines of our buying power. We are talked to as consumers and not owners. Can you talk about why, even before we leave this convention, it is imperative that we shift our own mentality around ownership, around wealth building, and how we protect resources to save ourselves, especially for a time like this?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in that question. I'm going to say and recommend that y'all go out and buy Jamal Ball's book, The Myth of Black Buying Power, which is an uncomfortable truth. A notion that there's this great collective black buying power that will steer our country into acting in a correct behavioral way. And this is not to poo-poo buying power. There's a cultural aesthetic associated with using your dollars and purchasing in a way to support your values. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about wealth, again, I'm going to give you the simple phrase. It is wealth that begets wealth. Wealth grows passively. Wealth iterates, it consolidates, and it excludes. The mechanism by which asset-based middle classes in America has been seeded is government. It is public investment, not handout. It is public investments in the capabilities of its people. So our collective action is exactly what Key is doing. She's building infrastructure. She's building infrastructure and political power to not only have the tools and the means by which individuals that work hard, that study hard, and do all those other things are able to succeed, that they have the investment capacity in the beginning by which to iterate and build those things. So I'm going to say one other quick thing, which is we're talking a lot about Donald Trump, but I'm going to say Trump is a symptom. He's a symptom of a bipartisan economy that has facilitated a strong man to exploit relative status and difference for political gain. So we can go back to this Great Recession when we lost a lot of wealth. And if you go back and remember the policies of the Great Recessions, we bailed out banks. We didn't go into a collapse or a depression, but there's a different way by which we could have came back from the depths of that Great Recession, which, by the way, was born about by banks selling products that were not ideal to people that qualified for better products. Namely, black people got those bad loans. But instead of redirecting capital to black people, we directed public resources to the banks, which not only bailed them out, created an asymmetry of power that allowed them to foreclose on us as well. So banks aren't the villain. It is our government and collective action that we demand investments in the capacities of the American people and black people in particular.
That is really good. I want to, you brought up Dr. Key's model, and what's been sitting with me is Fannie Lou Hamer, who of course dedicated so much of her time, energy, and efforts, almost her life, to ensure our voting rights, those same voting rights that were now being, well, now completely destroyed if you let this country tell it. But what she did after she left the voting rights work is the Freedom Farm Cooperative. And so I wanted to sit here for a moment to talk about the village, because I think that not only as consumers, but as creators, as innovators, as folks who can be supporters of what you're doing with the village and the village concept overall, our Village United and Village Market, I think it would be so important for this room to understand the solution side of this, because we spend so much of our time like, y'all, we going to hell in a handbasket. But we still have everything we need. We the People is the name of this conference for a reason. So talk about how We the People is leading our village. I'll take that one applause. I'll take it. Wake up, y'all. This is important.
I hope y'all saw my smile when Angela mentioned one of the greatest leaders that we are privileged to still benefit from, Fannie Lou Hamer. I am also a Mississippian living in Atlanta. And I must tell you, though I'm not a descendant of her bloodline, I am her daughter. Fannie Lou Hamer, what Angela mentioned, acquired 40 acres of land in Mississippi. Before she died, it was over 700 acres of land that she owned and co-owned as a cooperative for black folk. Her model is so important because as black people registered to vote, then their livelihoods, their lives were being taken. But she understood that if we own the place that we live, if we own the land that our businesses are on, we can fight differently and we can vote differently because we all will not be lost. 700 acres because of her vision. 700 acres, every time somebody registered to vote, they felt a sense of safety. That is the model of the village. And as her daughter, I have taken the baton further. The daughter of the village. The methodology is every single time that I go into a space, legions of black businesses come with me. When we think about wealth generation and what wealth is, Derek, it is the ability to be able to de-risk. It is the ability to have a safe place to land and fall when big box businesses tell us that no, it's no longer cool being black. The village says everybody here is black and excellent, and that's okay. So it doesn't matter whoever the president is, when we build as a collective, and what my model has done, doesn't matter who is in office. The will of the people is what has made my businesses a 7-figure businesses that flow to every entrepreneur that's in it. We've generated over $10 million in direct sales because of the will of the people, people like you. I am more of a solutions person than the perils of what's in front of us. Because if we do not begin to build with solutions, we will be suffocated by the perils. And I need us to know that there are people out there building, and y'all are building. And if we think about cascading into the future, because we also talk about intergenerational wealth. We start to think about, I don't have children, but I have my plants. We start thinking about our grandkids and great-grandkids. But I hope you all understand that we should also be building for the present moment. Don't you want to sit under the tree and experience its shade? Don't you? Epigenetics. What we know about it is that we transform and transfer our trauma across generations. But there is something also called reversibility and repair. Imagine if we're the generation that says that economic power will be moved on our watch. And not just economic power, but a radical healing will be on our watch. Imagine a reversibility that your grandkids and great-grandkids will have. They won't only aspire for wealth, but they will understand what comes with it is something greater, and it's the spirit of peace. And I hope as we fight to disrupt and rebuild our communities, I hope it's not just wealth that we're aspiring for. I truly hope that we are fighting, that we are healing a people that reflects healing and joy. That's my time, 7 minutes. That's what I'm sorry, I'm back.
You know, when Derek was speaking earlier, not this Derek, Derek Johnson, the NAACP president, Derek talked about Reverend Jackson a couple of times. He talked about keeping hope alive. I was actually surprised at how quiet this room is then, particularly because we lost that legend this year. And of course, we sit in a place where he made his home. What I think is important, Jamal, about what Reverend Jackson did, yes, he ran Rainbow Push. It's a civil rights organization, but he used every tool he had as a civil rights leader, an orator, an effective advocate, a politician, to ensure the needle was moved, not just for civil rights, but for silver rights. I would love to know what chapters and regional leaders can do at home to ensure that we continue to move the needle on silver rights, because the movement has to be funded, Jamal. So if we're not making ends meet, if we're not making deals happen for our business leaders, we continue to stay stuck in this perpetual cycle.
Well, I would lift up, Angela, there's probably 3 things that our units and our community have been doing, but we have to continue to do at an elevated level. So the first one I'm going to lift up is the notion of organizing. Are there any folks in the labor movement in the house? Now you see, I start off with organizing in the labor movement because we are all working people.
Yeah.
If you ask this room right now, can anybody in this room stop working today and take care of themselves and their families and their lifestyle? A lot of people can't raise their hand. You have to work to make ends meet. And so the labor movement is really about organizing and collective power. You see, I'm blessed to have 2 parents who are still with me, and they're retirees of Service Employees International Union. And what that means is they have a pension. Y'all, I'm gonna say that again. They have a pension. They have health insurance for the rest of their lives. And in their 70s, they actually don't have to work. But they have family members and friends who are 60, 70, 80 who are still working 3 and 4 jobs. And so the first thing our units need to do and will continue to do is organize with organized labor, because we know that that's where the heart of the movement is. Second thing I would lift up.
Wait, Jamal, before you get to your second point, because I think this is a good thing for you all to think about when you go home. The labor union is, all labor unions have members, and that membership has to also harness its power.
Yes.
There are folks that run these pension funds who too often, Jamal, don't look like us. And there are folks, we're in Chicago, which is, you know, our version of Black Wall Street. There are folks who sit in these buildings who are financial service experts who could run these pensions. So it's also important while y'all cheering for the retirement funds, make sure that those funds are being managed by people who look like us, because that creates jobs for Black people.
Exactly. And that actually leads to the second thing I would lift up is literally connecting with your financial experts in your community. Yes. Find your Derricks and Dr. Keys in your community to figure out what are the policy shifts and the economic levers you can push and pull on. Because at the end of the day, there's a whole lot of money in government, there's a whole lot of money in these pension funds, and the question is it being reinvested in our community? And the third thing I would do is keep it simple when educating the next generation. Are your young people utilizing the banking system? Do they know what it means to have a savings account? And I know some people be like, wait a minute, Jamal, that's real pedestrian. But the fact is, if we don't have the foundations with our young people, then we can't build that generational wealth. We want folks to learn how to start businesses, but you gotta learn how to open up a bank account. You gotta learn how the system works. And so our units are at the front lines of that work, and we'll continue to elevate and do that work.
I love that. So because we're in calls to action, I'm gonna come back this way. Dr. Key, for folks who are gonna go home from here, what are their marching orders?
Marching orders, y'all ready? Hold your hands up for me. That means everybody just agreed that they're gonna intentionally buy Black.
We can do that, that's it. That's it.
Second marching order, you're gonna also text folks within your phone and you're gonna tell them to get behind candidates in their community. Because without economic and political power, we would stay disenfranchised. And thirdly, we're gonna take care of ourselves. You can't fight with a weary mind and a weary spirit.
Amen.
So I need you to take care of your mind, nurture your consciousness, and to know that the power is we, the people. Collective consciousness is what will propel us into the future.
Love that. Dr. Hamilton. Marching orders, because we're going to march off this stage. We got a second panel coming up.
You got to build power. You got to, that's simple. Power is the point, the purpose, and the mechanism. At the end of the day, what do people want? Power, the ability to affect their lives. In order to get power, one's going to have to build it. You can always go back to the King quote, love without power is sentimental and anemic. And then power without values is frankly immoral, and we're seeing a lot of that. So that's esoteric. Let me be clear. There's no amount of financial literacy, there's no amount of behavioral change you can make without capital in the first place. And the biggest form of capital is through collective action, demanding that you get investments in your lives, not handouts, but investments in your capacities. And it's not novel. This is as American as apple pie. The problem is Black people have been excluded. And what's more, when Black people are able to acquire wealth, it's always vulnerable to confiscation, outright terror, because we have not built up the political power by which to protect that wealth in the first place.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. Let's give it up for this esteemed panel, Dr. Derrick Hamilton, Dr. Lakeisha Howman, and Jamal Watkins. We now have Jay Lundy of NAACP's Capital for the NAACP Amplified presentation, Building Wealth, Building Power, and right after that, we'll be back with another panel. Y'all just hang on with me for a little bit longer. Y'all have fasted before. Just give me about an hour. That's all. Thanks, y'all. Look, they fussing. They said, I'm hungry.
Please welcome the Managing Director of NAACP Capital, Jay Lundy.
Good afternoon, everyone. That's the best walkout song I've gotten. I'm really into Afro beats, and I've gotten some weird songs lately, but I am so happy to be here. And I want to get started by just saying that for 117 years, this association has fought with every single tool in the Constitution. We've organized, we've litigated, we've legislated, we've marched, and we've won again and again. There are several fights, though, that are still in front of us, including the fight for ownership. So rather than tell you what we're building, I thought I'd show you.
New weekdays. CBS Daytime is getting
Some problems don't need explaining. You grew up seeing them. Mental health without access. Schools without enough resources. Communities surrounded by technology but cut off from it. This isn't because solutions don't exist. It's because they don't reach the people who need them. For more than a century, the NAACP has worked inside these communities, building trust, gathering insight, learning what actually works on the ground. Now that understanding moves into capital. We're building a new direct investing platform to partner with exceptional founders, building and operating real businesses that serve and demonstrate this unmet demand. We invest early across healthcare, human infrastructure, climate, and economic mobility. And we help those businesses expand their reach and scale their impact in the real world. This isn't charity, it's ownership. It's helping what works move faster and finally giving it the scale it deserves. NAACP Capital. Build what lasts. Expand what works.
Now, here's the truth behind what you just saw. Wealth in America isn't built on wages. It's built on ownership. Owning homes, owning businesses, and owning a piece of the companies that become the biggest companies in the world. Over the past 50 years, one of the biggest wealth creation engines has a name. That name is venture capital. Uber, Facebook, Airbnb. Those companies were tiny companies that people invested in, and now they're worth trillions. Every one of them started with early investors who did not often look like us, and that's where we have an opportunity. And so far, and you've heard this before, our communities have been almost entirely shut out. In 2024, Black founders receive less than half of 1% of all venture capital funding. And more than the $1 trillion that is invested through the American venture capital system, only 1% of that is managed by Black investors. That's not just a wealth gap, that's a power gap. Ownership is where decisions get made, who gets funded, what gets built, and what communities it's built for. That's why we've launched NAACP Capital. And it's not about looking for the next Uber. It's about looking for companies and funds that close gaps in our communities, where they use responsible AI and technology to fix things. Gaps in financial inclusion, gaps in healthcare, gaps in climate and sustainable infrastructure. And here's the opportunity, the chance to do something that no other fund can do. We can leverage what this association has built for the past 117 years to bring our reach, our relationships, our access, and our power, and bring that into the world of innovation and technology. Because the gaps that we face millions of Americans, and closing them doesn't just improve lives, but it builds real businesses that generate profit, so doing right and doing well move together. That is power. So, we are actively fundraising and eager to start investing, but there's 3 things that those still in the room can do. Number 1, be a champion. Most people don't know we're doing this. Tell members of your chapter, members in your community, that we are open for business, looking for great ideas. Number 2, connect. You know founders building amazing things. Connect us with them. And 3, activate. Once we start investing, the products, the services, use them, buy them, support them, be their believers. For 117 years, this association has built power that the world could not ignore, despite how hard they've tried. Now we're building one that we rarely have, the power that comes with ownership. Building wealth is building power, and we, the people, are just getting started. Thank you, guys.
Please welcome to the stage Angela Rye, Tanisha Sullivan, Morgan DeBon, and Cliff Worley for our second panel, The New Civil Rights Frontier, Equity in the Age of AI.
Y'all still with us? All right. Well, we are going to talk about a topic that sometimes scares me, so I'm going to kick it off to my sister, Morgan DeBon, who has mastered this. I don't know if you all don't follow Morgan on social media, but if you are not following her, you are missing out. She's an incredible business leader. She runs Blavity. How many of you all have heard of Afrotech? Yes, this is Morgan, and she also is killing it in the AI space. So I want to turn it over to her first. She's going to moderate with me in just a little bit. Go ahead, Morgan.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. Raise your hand if you use AI. Okay. Keep your hand raised if you use AI once a week. Okay, that's great. So 1 in 4 people right now use AI once a week. And here's the thing. AI, there's a lot of downsides to AI, but AI can be used for good. So I'm excited today to have this conversation with you all about how we can be using AI for good, how we can use our own power to advocate for ourselves, because the question is no longer, is AI happening? Is it taking my job? It's how are we using it to our benefit and to our power?
Now, just a technical question. Where's your mic, sis? Is it down
Here.
further?
Yeah.
Okay. If you can't, oh, that's too far. Okay. I was like, I can barely hear you, so I want to
Can you
make
hear
sure. Can you all hear Morgan okay? Oh, no. Yeah, maybe slide it up. There we go. This is very important information, so y'all got to hear my sister. I want to go to Cliff next. And the reason why I'm going to Cliff next is because there was a point in time where I was so intimidated about AI. I was like, I'm not touching this. You ain't about to build no robot off of me. No, sir. And Cliff has presented now at a few conferences where I've been, and he makes it very pedestrian and accessible. Cliff, I want to hear from you on why that's so important in an environment like this with our folks who, sometimes we can get stuck in our ways. So I want to hear from you on why this is important for us to lean in where we might be inclined to lean out.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first saw ChatGPT.
I definitely can't hear you.
No? Let me do this. I remember the first time I saw ChatGPT, and the second I saw it, I was like, this is going to be one of the biggest things ever. But I was like, I'm going to need to teach everybody what's going on. And what ended up happening is AI started off slow, and now it's changing every single day. It used to change every other month, and now it's changing every single day. And there's got to be somebody that is paying attention to it to let us know what's coming, how to use it. And I mean, I really believe that this is going to be the technology that makes our lives better. That's what I believe. But we need to make sure that we're a part of the conversation and the planning of it.
Well, Cliff, stay there for just a moment. How involved are we in shaping AI right now? You're certainly involved in bringing products for people to be exposed to, but how are we involved right now in shaping it? And I'll give you this example. I'm asking because I know about this one. But Isosa Osa's just launched Aisha. And Aisha's like our black ChatGPT. She's probably mad for me even comparing the two. But I think it's important for us to understand we do have some innovative leaders who are saying, okay, well, it's coming. I'm not going to be left behind. Here's the thing that I'm doing. Where are you seeing us contribute in this space?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about AI is that it gives us the ability to build whatever we want. And I would say, maybe over the last year, maybe in the last few months, AI has gotten so good that you can just talk to it now and just tell it what you want to build, right? And so, of course, the major players, the OpenAIs, the Anthropics, they're not necessarily building with us in mind. They're just building this technology. And if you look at their pictures of their developers, you won't see one black face there, right? So that means that we are going to have to develop our own technology, right? Which is what I think she's doing with the Aisha tool. And so I think more of us need to start building, because now the cool thing about AI is that you don't have to be technical to get your ideas off the ground anymore. So you might say, hey, I want to build a website that does this. You literally just talk to AI and say, I want a website that builds this. It's going to come back and you say, I want to change this. I want to change that. And it'll do that. And that's only probably within the last 3 or 4 months that this has been possible. But I just want to come spread the word to let us know that it's like we can build now. We don't have to be technical.
Tanisha, I want to come to you because looking at some of what you do in the healthcare space, I'm thinking about like Function Health. Function Health is a platform that I use that I love all of these labs you can get. I'm a hypochondriac, y'all, so I love to make sure nothing is wrong. And I hadn't realized how much Function Health is also relying on AI-related tools. So I would love for you to talk about how you see, given all of the deficits that exist in our healthcare system, that a really important and critical role AI can play there.
I love that question, Angela, because I am incredibly hopeful for what AI and other emerging technology can do to help us close very persistent and stagnant gaps in healthcare, health access, and really to advance health equity. And the reason I'm hopeful is because of exactly what you just described. AI is an equalizer when it can be an equalizer when it comes to access to information, right? And so it is true. I mean, how many folks have been to the doctor within the last year or so, and one of the things you may be asked by your physician is, do you mind if I use this tool to help take notes on our...
Okay, let's pause here, Tanisha. I have that question for the audience. Have you all been asked that? Can they use Scribe? What did y'all say? You say yes? I told them no. I said, where is this going?
So
What did you say, Morgan?
I said, really? She said, really?
Yeah.
So here's the thing about that. One of the reasons why, one, we are using these tools. Yeah. And healthcare providers are using these tools. But the other piece is, the research has shown us, and we know intuitively, that there are gaps in trust. Right? And one of the things we talk about, one of the things we hear is, people feeling like our healthcare providers aren't listening to us. They don't hear us when we speak. They're not responding to us accordingly. And in using these tools, physicians are actually better positioned. They're better able to connect, right? So it's the difference between a doctor, head down, you're talking, you are providing them with deep personal information, right? About how you're feeling and your health. And instead of them not looking at you and head down taking the notes, they're able to connect and we can have a conversation. And so that can help a physician provide better care. It can help deepen the connection. So that's one. The other piece is, what I love about it, as a patient and as a family member who is supporting my parents in their healthcare journey, is that there's a lot of power in that thing. So before I go to a doctor's appointment today, I'm checking with one of my agents, whether it's Claude or it's ChatGPT or it's Copilot. We have built a relationship, right? They know me and they do, right? And I'm able to say, look, we're going into the doctor's office. Here are the things that I've been experiencing. What would you suggest I ask the physician? Right? That changes the dynamic, and it creates a situation where we are more empowered when it comes to our healthcare. It creates a situation where we're able to be in dialogue with the physician and with the other healthcare providers so that we can get to better care.
Yeah.
The goal here is better health outcomes. For us as a people with persistent healthcare disparities, with premature mortality, for diseases and disorders that are preventable, AI creates great potential, and we'll talk about the peril, but creates great potential in helping to empower us when it comes to our healthcare and health access.
So here's the thing on that particular last point, because we still are overwhelmingly absent in development of those tools. So if the people who are developing the tools still have the racist or racial blind spots around us, how are we really seen even by clouding them?
Good.
Somebody said that part. See, I gotta ask. I'm still nervous.
It's very important. And so Morgan and Cliff are the experts.
Yeah.
Okay, so they know all the technical pieces. I am very much a lay person when it comes to this thing, right? And so what I will say is, the tool only knows what it knows, and it learns, right? And so that's where it is, yes, incumbent upon us to encourage more technologists to get into the space, but what I'll leave with the people is it's also incumbent upon us to use these tools. Because the more we are putting into them, the better they are able to support us on our journey. If we're not using them, we have the potential to exacerbate the gaps.
Okay, Cliff and Morgan, here's my only thing, and I'm not trying to make it a debate, but this is a little debatable. So you know how when you look at social media platforms, we made every single social media platform pop, but we ain't get a dime for all of the many ways. Like if you look at Twitter, Black Twitter made Twitter. You know, right now, Threads is becoming Black Threads. We're making Threads. That's right. Arguably, same thing with the Gram and Facebook. So how do we not find ourselves in that same predicament, that same position with AI tools?
Very good. Yeah, I think it's a valid question. When it comes to the data, I do want to just make sure everyone understands. AI is trained on all of the data that has ever been. So the bias that was inputted into our data, into our government data, into how we use these tools, that is what it is, its foundation. And so as it evolves, we have an opportunity to input new data. It's no different than clinical trials, right? In the clinical trial space, if they've only ever done research studies on people who don't look like us, then they're only doing benchmarking based off of a benchmark that has nothing to do with our benchmarks, okay? And so the same thing is true in the age of AI and these algorithms and technology. In terms of ownership, one of the things that's hard is that those biases that already exist in our financial institutions, when it came to intellectual property in music and the creation of music, it is the same. And
They said they can't hear
still
you.
can't hear me.
How about now?
I'm about to take Hold it. How about this? Yeah, okay. So let me run it back 2 seconds. AI is trained on all that has ever been. It's called an LLM, a large language model, which means that at the end of the day, it is trained on large sets of data, our history, our facts, but that means that only things that have been documented are the things that it's been trained on. Same thing in the clinical trial industry, right? So when we look at how pharmaceuticals and others are building out these products, they're not considering us as their benchmark because we are not a part of their clinical trials. So it is a valid question to say, well, how are you going to use this data from Scribe when I go into that doctor's office? What is it going to be used for? Ask the question, but perhaps we're actually doing a little bit of good by entering our data into the system because it allows them to perhaps desensitize it, that's important, but it adds to the diversity of the pool of information. Same thing with AI when it comes to Claude or ChatGPT. Do you want them to be able to pull up your exact chat? No. Should you be doing things that you can get subpoenaed for because that is not protected information if you're talking to it like a lawyer or a therapist? No. Okay. However, there's a lot of the conversation every single day that we do want to input into these systems because they are the new search engines. They are going to be bigger than Google. They're going to be bigger than YouTube. There was SEO, search engine optimization. Now there's AEO, AI search optimization. So it's important that we are participating because this is the transformation that's happening.
Yeah, that's right. Cliff, I want to give you the opportunity to weigh in on this point.
Yeah, you know, how I look at the medical piece of it, my mom has high blood pressure, and, you know, I said, you know what I want to do is I want to take all of your readings, and I want to feed that into AI to see if AI can find any patterns that we may not be able to see. So at the end of the day, I'm giving it as much data as it can because it's really good at data processing. And it noticed it around a certain time I think maybe a couple of years ago that something changed. And I said, Mom, do you remember what happened? She said, well, I changed my medication around that time. I said, we need to stop that medication. You see what I mean? So it's like the doctors are just going to prescribe you things and, you know, nobody's really checking on you.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, we need to use AI to check these doctors, right? To see what's really going on. In terms of protection, though, in terms of you know, we always make things hot. The thing about AI is that because it's such a powerful tool, somebody can take our videos that we've created on social media, use AI to scrape, you know, the transcript and rewrite it in their own voice. And so I pose this question usually in talks where I say, you know, if AI is the thing that copied everything on the internet, and that's what we use now, right? Have we reached a point in society that is copying the norm?
Yeah.
Right? Is that the norm? Is that the new thing that we're in? Because we use it. AI has pretty much scraped everything that's on the internet. right? And so it's giving us information. We don't know exactly where those things come from. But at the end of the day, have we reached this point in society? Because now we have this technology where we can look at anything and say, tell me about that. How many times did that person lie in that statement? Right? What's the truth about this? Right? How can I change this for my business? And so we're in this kind of gray area. Everybody's trying to figure it out. But I mean, that's one question I always want to pose to people is like, have we entered this new time?
Can I just say one other thing? Because certainly I think for all of us, and Angela, we're going to get you there. But for us over here, we definitely want to see more people using and engaging with these tools, okay? What I do also want to make sure we're doing is ensuring that we're not overly relying on them, right? Because, and you heard a little bit of that in what Cliff shared and what Morgan said, but I don't want us to miss this thing. AI can be used for good, but always with a human in the loop, okay? It is not about using the tool only and relying only on what the tool, what the agent gives to you for information. There is still a need for us as humans to engage with that information, to ensure its veracity, to ensure that it's true, that it's accurate, that it is reflective, right, of what we want it to be. So this is not about AI only. This is about how can we engage with these tools, the AI, the emerging technology in a way that it makes our lives easier so that we can spend more time on the things that need us most.
I think that's a really good point. I will say, I'm not completely anti.
Come on over.
But I'm really not. But I am starting to get a little irritated. So now, like, I know when somebody's using AI for, like, their social media posts or speeches. We're not pursuing justice for justice's sake.
That's right.
We're pursuing justice because we need it. It's like, okay. Like, we know that that's happening. But Morgan, I want to come back to you. Again, so you all know, Morgan is an extraordinary business leader who thrives on making systems more efficient. And when I moderated her book talk, she's also an author. Make sure y'all cop that book.
We have a book signing at 4.
Oh, book signing at 4 p.m. Be there, don't be square. And that's not from AI. I will say this, Morgan, I don't even know if you know this, but when I moderated the book talk in Atlanta, there was a woman that came up to the mic named Flo, who runs Easy Flow Life, and she runs like an executive assistant firm. You knew of her, and that was the only validation I needed, y'all. So Flo, to this day, is my virtual assistant, and she has made my life so much more efficient. So because this is what she does, y'all, this is a message and I approve it, I would love for you to talk about, because efficiency isn't just needed in corporate or for folks who run businesses, it's also needed for these chapters.
That's right.
What are some things that you would offer them to make life more efficient by relying on some of these AI tools?
Very good. Such a great question. One is a note taker. So I don't know how many times you've been in a call and you've wished you had a junior staffer or an intern or someone on the call to help synthesize information so that you can focus on whoever you're speaking with. So whether you use Zoom or you use Microsoft Copilot or you use Google Hangouts, they have a tool called Gemini. Make sure you have that note taker on. And
wait. Okay, this is bad. You're gonna be mad at me. How many of y'all use the Zoom note taker?
Okay,
y'all doing real good. Is anybody afraid to use it like me? I'm afraid, Morgan. What they do with my notes? Y'all, I was raised by an activist. What you want me to do? Okay, I think everything is the feds, Morgan.
I could, but for you, you have some facts and some data but we're not doing what you're doing. I'm like, you want these Afrotech notes? Some of them are. Okay. That's true. So, but I think it's okay. So first things first, because you're already on Google. I mean, you have a Gmail account. They're reading your emails.
That's true.
You're on Facebook. You're on Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's selective in a way.
Take them notes, girl. Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, so a note taker. Simple, but really effective, because then you can have a connector with ChatGPT or Claude, and from there, they can parse all the notes you've ever taken. So if you're like, hey, I met with so-and-so, can you pull up their notes? And so a meeting that you would have had 4 or 5 months ago, now you have context before you're meeting with them.
Wow.
Or your teams. Let's say there's meetings that are happening and you're not able to join that call. I used to have to join so many calls, Angela. I don't join any calls. Notes are mandatory at my company. I read the transcripts after the fact.
Wow.
You don't really need me on the call. I need the information so that I can help advise on whatever decision or the open question is. But I don't want to sit in a 30, 45-minute meeting for the 2 to 3 minutes that I'm actually needed.
Wow.
So I think opening up your calendar and giving you more time to do the work, for most people in this room, that is 2 to 5 hours a week. And I think that's the key with AI. It can feel so overwhelming. So my challenge to you is, how do you get 30 minutes back in your day? And if you got 30 minutes compounded in a week, compounded in a month, compounded in a year, that's years of impact and work. You don't have to have 20 AI agents or an org chart or all this crazy stuff. Let's get a note taker and let's get ChatGPT or Claude and connect it to your tools so that you can have a dialogue with it about your data.
Good. That's good. Cliff, this is also your pocket.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools that are newer? Because as you all have heard, he scours the internet and places regularly to identify some of the new tools coming out weekly and daily. So
Yeah.
what are some of the new ones that folks who run NAACP chapters and orgs should be paying attention to?
Absolutely. So as of this morning, there are 50,000 AI tools. I checked.
Too many.
So it's not just ChatGPT and Claude. And also for the note taker, there also are note takers that just live locally on your machine, so it doesn't go up to the cloud. Granola and Quill. I use Quill, so that way nobody can get my notes.
That's a good note.
But what I would say, one of the most powerful tools I've seen lately, they always talk about AI can be this assistant for you, but you still kind of have to program it and build it. But there's a tool called Town. I think the website is town.com, and I'll tell you what happened. So I had an EA, a human EA. She didn't do too good, so I had to let her go. And somebody told me about the Town. And I installed the Town, and the first thing it did, it said, Cliff, it looks like you have a meeting on Monday that's an interview. I've gone ahead and researched the person, and here's the information about the person.
Dang,
I was like, okay, right on. All right. But then it said, I've also looked in your inbox and I saw that you have prep questions. I've gone ahead and developed talking points for you.
Very good.
So now I show up to the LinkedIn Live prepared, And this is a tool, I think it's about $50 a month, but you can program it to do anything you want. And this was just like a one-click button routine that's already set up automatically in the tool. And that's what I think about AI, is that it needs to be easy enough that we don't have to program it. It's just something that we kind of show up and it just does the thing. And the best thing is it proactively does work. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is somebody to proactively tell us what we need to know about. And so it'll tell me things like, hey, this is what you did all of this week. Here's what's upcoming this week. I've gone ahead and done this. I see you're going to the game. You want me to shut off your calendar a little bit before? I'm like, yep, absolutely. So I think that's one of the best tools, and I would say we're getting to that point where proactivity AI is coming.
I have a question, because I know you all have been sitting for a while, and this is like the type of forum where you can learn and help to solve for a problem you're currently facing in your organizations, and these folks are the experts. So I would love for you, I know there's no mic down there, so you're gonna go rogue with me a little bit, but shout out an issue that you're solving for. I guarantee you these people can solve it. And normally they would cost a lot of money, so I would get this pro bono advice real quick with this 7 minutes we have left.
Tool. The Town.
Town and
Yeah.
Quill.
Yeah, town.com, Quill Meetings, I think that's the website, and then Granola, also a meeting note taker that lives locally on your machine.
The other questions? They
Yeah.
want to know how to get seniors to participate, because they scared like me.
Yeah, I think you have to, it's kind of like a show and tell kind of thing, because I think about AI, learning AI is like swimming. You can read about swimming, but that don't mean you know how to swim.
Yeah.
Right? And so for AI, you need to show seniors, this is how you can use it to ask questions, right? The show and tell, I think, is the best. I call it playtime. The only way you learn AI is to play with it. And so creating, small playtime sessions with the elderly, and just saying, hey, today we're going to learn what ChatGPT is and how it works and how you can ask it a question. We're going to show you how you can use it on your phone, and we're going to show you how to use it on the computer.
So the other piece is with the NAACP. So about 2 years ago, some of you all may remember, My company, Sanofi, and the NAACP announced a partnership, a collaboration. That has become, and some of you know it in the space, the ACE Your Health initiative. Through ACE Your Health, and Dr. Chris, I know she meets monthly with units. Through ACE Your Health, we do have an AI focus. And that focus does a couple of things. One, it does provide a platform through which units can get access to some training. So I definitely encourage units to connect again with Dr. Chris and her team at the Center for Health Equity regarding kind of training so we can boost that AI literacy and fluency. The other piece it does is helps to provide from a policy standpoint units with the tools that could be helpful to you as you're advocating in this space. Because what we know is that because AI is new, the policy around AI is still evolving at the local, state, and federal levels. Okay, so it is critically important that we are able to advocate at the local, state, and federal level around the governance structure and frameworks related to AI. And so Dr. Chris and her team, again, have the resources for units available to help us all on that journey. So I definitely want to encourage you to connect with Dr. Chris and the Center for Health Equity in the policy team writ large when it comes to some of this stuff as well.
I want to say some of the caution isn't about a new tool as much as it is about the new environment we're in. So we know, just like with crypto and some other things, AI is largely unregulated. Yeah. Just last week, after Donald Trump gave this speech about what he expects to have happen in the midterm elections, the next day, Marco Rubio's out talking about how they're going to start targeting and investigating leftist terrorist organizations for domestic terrorism. So some of what may be caution or like some hesitancy in the room, not even just with seniors, but people in the activism and organizing spaces, period, are how will they get access to this information? How will they use it to cause us harm? What is the response to that? And how do you kind of balance those two things? Because I think certainly people are like, whatever we can do to make this organization more efficient, we're down. But also, how do we make sure we don't blindly go and forget about what could potentially happen?
So Cliff mentioned having some of these tools locally on your machine. Yeah. So I just want to explain what that means more explicitly, because that's really the power, and that's what we're going to see more of. So when you have Excel or Microsoft, it's sitting on your computer, right? You have a folder, you can pull up your file, it's there. If you lost your computer, you would lose that folder. That means it's locally on your computer. We are moving in a direction where we will have access to these large language models on our phones, and they will be locally on our phone. The reason they need to do that is actually because it's better for the environment and it's better for everyone, that it's not going up, down, left, right, up, down, back into the satellite, but back to our phone for simple things. And as these become more and more powerful and the chips that are in our devices become more and more powerful, it means that we can have local device storage. That is going to be a huge unlock in terms of our safety and making sure that the data is in a secure place. It's not on a server that could be, again, subpoenaed, whether we like it or not, and whether these companies like it or not. And as we've seen, these tech CEOs, they're baby oligarchs. I mean, they are sitting in government official rooms and spending a ton of money influencing our outcomes. And so there's not a separation of church and state right now. And we do need to take it very seriously. Hopefully we all turn out for the midterms and we're able to right some of the wrongs that have been happening. But in the event that we are in this for the long haul, it is important that we learn how to move our information and have it stored on our own servers in our offices, in our homes, and on our devices.
Closing words, Tanisha and Cliff.
Hi, please.
Absolutely.
So the question, for those of you all couldn't hear it, is about all of the young people, stand-up young people who came into the room already relying on some AI tools. And this sister asked what they could do to ensure that they're using it for the right things and they could be better citizens. We know y'all are already powerful and amazing, so thank y'all for being here.
Yeah,
So y'all incorporate that in your closing
I can
words.
take that one. And so I train a lot of Fortune 500 companies, right, and their employees on how to use the AI tools. And I'm going to give you a gem. What I'm seeing internally is that the employees that work at these companies do not have the time to learn these tools. But guess who has time?
Bam.
You guys. And I'm telling you, if you spend your hours, your free time learning these tools, you can be able to take anybody's job.
Okay, one more question. Very good. So for the folks who are streaming, the question was around what AI tools should be used based on their reliance or over-reliance on data centers. How do you filter through which are the right ones to use?
It's a good question, and it's one that I think we all are still trying to figure out, because it's not just the AI tools. It's not just Claude versus, ChatGPT. The biggest data centers are actually still for Meta, powering, our phones and the tools that we're using. It's Netflix powering our streaming. It's Google's YouTube powering all the content that we consume. So yes, it's important for the data centers just for AI, but also all the other tech companies that we're having this conversation. The way I approach it is that we need to be talking to our politicians and our elected officials at the local level, because they're the ones who are getting the proposals for the permits, and they're the ones who are getting influenced to give tax breaks. And some cities are doing better than others. And part of it is an education about the trade-offs and what are our demands if you want to put this in our city, if you want to put this next to our schools, if you want to put it next to our homes, what are our demands? Because if not in my neighborhood, it's going to be in the neighborhood down the street. So we all need to be asking for the same thing, because they're going to go to the cheapest place that has their head down, that is not paying attention. And they have. That's how we got here.
Yeah. Tanisha, I want to come to you for closing words. And just so you all know, I've asked you to tarry with me a little longer. There is going to be an AI data center conversation that Aubrey leads, and she is amazing as well. Tanisha.
So I'll pick up where Morgan left off, and I love the framing of the question, because the question wasn't, should we not, why are we using these tools, and we should object fully to data centers. The way the question was framed was one of, okay, if they're going to be in our community, then how should they show up? And what can we do about it? So I love the framing of the question. And I think that's the mindset, and that's where I'll leave us. I think the mindset with which we think about emerging technology, whether it's AI as we know it today or AI as it will be a year from now, is to really be open to the possibility. To the possibility for how, when we think about it through a civil rights lens, through a justice lens, how these tools can help us advance justice, freedom, and liberation for all people. And they can. They can do it whether it is from an operational standpoint in terms of saving us time. They can do it in helping us to prepare for meetings with policymakers. Who wants to read a 100-page bill in an hour to be prepared to sit with a mayor, a city councilor, or a governor? These tools can help us prepare for those types of meetings, but these tools can also, again, serve as a great equalizer. And so I want us to have an open mind when it comes to these tools. The second thing I'll say is, if we do nothing else leaving the space, picking up on what Cliff said, let's use them, learn them. Because the beauty of this moment is that very few people know more than anybody else in this room. But if we wait too long, it may be too late. Okay, so love the conversation. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you all so much. Please give it up for Tanisha, Morgan, and Cliff. When I see y'all, I'm gonna ask you what AI tool you downloaded. Thank you so much. Hang on just a little bit longer, y'all. We almost done.
Please welcome the Director of Environmental and Climate Justice of the NAACP, Abray Connor, for NAACP Amplified. Who gets left off the grid?
We are in Chicago, and so first I want to ask, who actually experienced some of the air quality issues that we experienced just a couple of days ago? So I'm going to tie that into our conversation today. I oversee our Center for Environmental and Climate Justice, and we are standing at a defining and critical moment. We have the opportunity to build a technologically just future that fixes environmental and climate justice concerns for all communities, or we are doomed to repeat the past and deepen sacrifice zones that have been impacting Black communities and us here for generations. We must act now. I began my legal career advocating to ensure the environmental harms of fossil-fueled infrastructure for fracking did not create more layers of injustice. And at that time, there was a narrative that fracking would fix all of our energy problems. Many of us knew better. Many of us fought, and we knew that if we did not win, we would see increased industrial build-out with no clear future of community-based solutions. Less than a decade later, our worst fears came true. However, the communities and I did not forget. We organized and were prepared. So when a billionaire showed up in Memphis, Tennessee, to build a methane gas-powered AI data center without the people, we were ready. AI data centers are not like regular computing data centers. They have major environmental and climate concerns. They can use as much water as every single resident in the city. They pollute hundreds of miles and can cause Black and brownouts in communities. And they can increase bills for residents. And the quality of life can change dramatically. And though it's exciting to imagine tackling some of our most important energy hurdles and utilizing technology for a better future, that is not what we saw in Memphis. Elon Musk built the XAI facilities without notifying the community or getting basic air permits under the Federal Clean Air Act. And while some of the largest AI data centers have operated with less than 10 gas turbines, Elon Musk put dozens on site in Memphis without any public notice and did not stop his operation of methane gas turbines when the community asked. But the NAACP immediately stood with communities and filed legal action in Memphis, Tennessee. Once we filed our intent to sue, Elon actually moved those turbines and a few dozen more to South Haven, Mississippi. And this led us to file the first legal challenge against XAI for violating the Clean Air Act. And while this has been an ongoing battle, as it relates to one of the most egregious examples of what not to do, our larger data center campaign highlights building proactive models and templates for communities to use across the country. Last summer, the NAACP brought more than 100 partners to Memphis, Tennessee, to a HBCU to develop the now highly cited first set of national data center guiding principles, the Frontline Framework. And additionally, we have community benefit resources, public education materials, and we published the People's Report, a community-led scientific report for data center policy solutions at a hyper-local level. Since launching our campaign, the Department of Justice, in a highly unusual manner, intervened in our XAI case, not to help communities, but to support more pollution in a place that already has poor air quality. Its goal was to stop groups like the NAACP from bringing citizen suits, one of the most important tools to hold polluters accountable with environmental laws. The fight is no longer about one data center. Our campaign now ensures that people understand that this is a fight to make polluters pay and for our democracy as a whole. And if there was ever any doubt as to which side of history you want to be on, this should solidify the answer for you. So, what can we, the people, do to stand up and speak out? We must pause data center development that happens at a pace that does not allow for communities to meaningfully be a part of the solutions. This means ensuring permitting and zoning reforms that are in place before development. No more backroom deals, and there must be transparency with every single decision. We must identify and track projects through our NAACP Stop Dirty Data Tracker. We must show up locally to every single meeting that's happening around data centers. And we must lead from within. We have the answers for what we want to actually see. Right now, AI data center conversations is one of the haves and have-nots. And we know that that resistance comes from a unified recognition that there is a better way for us to discuss technology that does not pollute our planet. We can solve our planet's major energy crises without creating shortcuts that harm our people. As John Lewis once said, a democracy cannot thrive where power remains unchecked and justice is reserved to a select few. Ignoring these cries and failing to respond to this movement is simply not an option. For peace cannot exist where justice is not served. So I ask you, what voices are missing when energy dominance and artificial intelligence discussions only include the few? AI data centers concerns is one of the most single unifying issues of our time. So let's continue to be the voice of the movement and democracy, not the few. Thank you.
Please welcome back today's presiding officer, Reverend Dr. Wendell Anthony of the NAACP National Board of Directors.
Thank you for those of you who have remained. We know that it has been a very exciting morning. We thank all of those presenters, the panelists, Mayor Johnson, and certainly the National President, Derek Johnson, the awardees for giving us such an exciting beginning morning. Let's give everybody a big hand. This brings us back to a close. We thank you. Please remember the words of Frederick Douglass that power concedes nothing without a demand. Never has, and it never will. Now, for an update before we adjourn, let us welcome Special Assistant to our General Counsel, Christian Clark, Ms. Lenita Russ. Thank you so much for staying.
Good afternoon, NAACP. I will be reporting the credentials for the 117th NAACP Convention as of July 20th, 2026. Region 1 delegates 179, alternates 13, total by region 192. Region 2 delegates 294, alternates 69, total by region 359. Region 3 delegates 385, alternates 85, total by region 470. Region 4 delegates 81, alternates 7, total by region 88. Region 5 delegates 393, alternates 48, total by region 441. Region 6 delegates 109, alternates 8, total by region 117. Region 7 delegates 128, alternates 9, total by region 137. Total delegates 1,572, alternates 235, observers 601, grand total 2,418. This concludes my report. I entertain a motion to receive my report. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage members of the NAACP National Board of Directors.
Well, good morning, or good afternoon, NAACP family. I'm Luana Johnson Bivens, Vice Chair of the Elections Supervisory Committee, and I have with me
Gloria Sweetlove, member of the Election Supervisory Committee.
And we're here to talk about the elections. 2 petitions have been verified, and the candidates are officially eligible to appear on the ballot for election to the National Board of Directors by this convention. They are Cozy Bailey and Damar Roberts. Yay. Each candidate will be allowed a nominator and 2 seconders. The nominators and the seconders will be given 2 minutes each for their speech. Following the nomination speeches, the candidates will be given 3 minutes each. Now, Board Member Sweetlove will announce who the candidates have selected.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bivens. Damar Roberts has selected as his nominator Eric Spraggins. For his first second, Maureen Duncan. For the second, Chair Emeritus Rosalind Brock. Reverend Cozy Bailey has chosen as his nomination for his first one, Gayleen Knorr. For his second, Rebecca Wynn. And for his third, Monica Hudson.
So delegates, you will cast your ballots on Tuesday, July 21st from 12 to 5 p.m. Please remember that you must bring or have your convention badge in order to vote. And registration has that information. Ballots will be delivered electronically to each delegate's device through Election Buddy. If you are unable to vote using your cell phone, computers will be available at the back of the hall during the resolution session to assist you. So now we are going to get started, and the first candidate will be
Damar Roberts. His nominators, Eric Spraggin. Second nominator, Maureen Duncan. And third nominator, Chair Emeritus Rosalind Brock. And for Reverend Bailey, first nominator will be Gayleen Knorr. Second, Rebecca Wynn. And third one, Monica Hutchison.
Please welcome Reverend Dr. Stephen Thurston, Senior Pastor of the New Covenant Baptist Church.
It's benediction time. Let's pray. God of the stolen and the surviving, God of the auction block and the ballot box, God who kept us through fires we did not start and floods we did not summon. We gathered 250 years into an experiment that wrote we the people in ink that did not include us. And yet here we stand, not a footnote to the promise, but living proof that the promise was always too small. God bless the hands in this room. Bless President Johnson and his vision. Send him more armor bearers and remove any pallbearers that are around him. Bless Chair Russell and Vice Chair Boykin Towns. Bless the tired, the organized, and the determined, the ones who marched until their shoes wore thin, but their hope did not. Bless the memory of Hazel Duke, whose voice never shrank to fit the comfort of power. And may the courage she carried keep marching through us. Bless the young lions who are done waiting for permission, and trouble the comfortable who have developed prophetic laryngitis. Send us from this place, not soothed but sent, not entertained but enlisted, because we, the people, was never merely a declaration, it's a demand, and the roll will be called in November. Now my charge and challenge to you is to go with your spine straight and your name on the line. Go become the people the Constitution lacked the courage to imagine. And may the God of the long, unbroken struggle go before you, stand behind you, and rise within you until justice rolls down and we, all of us, the people, are finally and fully free. It's in the name of that Negro from Nazareth that I pray, amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the nominators of the Special Election Committee.
Delegates, please remain seated for these nominations. Benediction came a little early. Please do not leave.
Good afternoon. We rise today not simply to nominate a name, but to recognize a leader whose record speaks for itself. A leader who has shown up, a leader who has served, a leader who has invested in this association, and more importantly, invested in this future. When young people needed a voice, he listened. When opportunities were created, he made sure we had a seat at the table. When leadership called, he answered. Character matters. Experience matters. Service matters. And at the time when this association continues to move forward, we need leaders who understand that the work is bigger than themselves and who are willing to help us lead into the future. It is with pride, confidence, and on behalf of the young people across the association that we place into nomination the name of DeMar Roberts for the NAACP 117th National Convention at Large C.
Good afternoon. I rise to second that nomination. I come here before you as Maureen Duncan, a member of the National Board of Directors, the Indiana State Conference State Advisor, and I'm here to support the nomination for DeMar Roberts. I met DeMar Roberts back in 2007 when I asked him in 2010 to come to the first ever Youth and College retreat in Indianapolis. He did it without hesitation. He came back in 2012, and he's always been a supporter of the Youth and College Division. So I stand before you proudly to say that I second the nomination for DeMar Roberts.
Delegates, the hour is long, and I'm not going to belabor it, but this is a serious matter. That's why I've come to the mic to lend my support 100% and second the nomination of DeMar L. Lamont Roberts to the position to run at-large candidacy to the National Board of Directors of the NAACP. DeMar understands that it's not just about preserving our legacy, but it's about preparing this organization, the next generation of leaders. You saw the young people who stood up here. I've stood here as well, and I have seen him grow up in this organization. I know his heart. I know the work that he has before him, and he is committed to this association. And so it is my esteemed honor to second his nomination.
Fired up, ready to go. It is indeed my honor, my pleasure, and my distinct privilege that I accept this nomination. The NAACP has made me the man that I am today. It's because of generations that have paved the way for me, and I'm grateful to continue paving the way for others. So it is with much excitement, much enthusiasm that I, on behalf of the nation's largest, baddest, and boldest, most feared and revered, most cussed and discussed, but most loved and most hated civil rights organization in the world, accept this nomination. Thank you very much.
Fighters. My name is Gayleen Kanoyton. I'm the Political Action Chair for the NAACP Virginia State Conference, and I'm also the President of the Hampton Branch NAACP. And I rise to nominate our State President, Reverend Cozy Bailey. I'm the one that asked him to run in 2023 because he is a strategist. He is a go-getter, and he supports our young people and youth in college. As a matter of fact, we have the youngest vice president in our region, in our state that we've ever had before. Reverend Bailey listens, he's proactive, and we have done more work in terms of policy work, advocacy, and a lot of lawsuits. And he's been right there with them. So I support him 100% for his nomination. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Wynn. I'm a proud member of the NAACP. Thank you all for having me here. I would like to second the nomination of our leader, Reverend Cozy Bailey. He has been here for the youth. When our voting precincts have been under attack, especially those at our HBCUs throughout Virginia, Reverend Cozy Bailey has led the charge in organizing, both on the ground and in the courtroom. A couple of years ago, about a year or two ago, when college students were under attack by this administration and being arrested for exercising their First Amendment right to speak out, it was Reverend Cozy Bailey that led the charge, again, on the ground and in the courtroom. And not only has he been there for the youth in those capacities, he's been there for the community. It's Reverend Cozy Bailey that has reached out and monitored situations across our state where polling locations have been closing in predominantly Black and minority communities. And it's Reverend Cozy Bailey that's been organizing people in order to push back and make sure that that ballot box access is open and available to those communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Freedom Fighters. My name is Monica Hutchinson, and I am the president for the Henrico County Branch 7077B in Virginia, Henrico, Virginia. And it is my absolute honor and privilege to also be able to second the nomination for Reverend Dr. Cozy Bailey this afternoon. Under Dr. Bailey's leadership and guidance in Virginia, we have been increasing Black voter turnout on a consistent basis. When it was time for Virginia to stand up in the fight for redistricting and to help fight to increase Black political power across the country, we absolutely answered the call. And it was under his guidance and under his continued guidance that in Virginia we push back and we fight against data centers, the rising cost of energy in Virginia. We fight for education, we fight for equity, economic opportunities, and for our community to not just survive, but to thrive. I have no doubt that Reverend Dr. Bailey would bring all of that to the national stage. So once again, it's my absolute honor to second the nomination.
So good afternoon.
And I know that your stomachs are growling like mine, so I won't be before you very long. I just came to humbly accept this nomination to this prestigious position, and one that I understand is of great service. I have come to this point because I sat at the knee of my mother, who was greatly moved by the diligence and advocacy of one Fannie Lou Hamer back in the early 60s. And she showed me at that time what advocacy was all about. I have been an advocate for fairness and equity throughout my life, through my time in the military, through my time in corporate America, and the time that I've been able to spend in the Commonwealth of Virginia, doing the things that Virginia does, leading in the advocacy that we do. I want to ensure that what has been instilled with me is shared in a larger way. My desire for the innovation of advocacy, my desire to ensure that we continue to leverage the intergenerational collaboration that we have always done, and to continue to provide even greater exquisite membership services to this wonderful organization. I ask that you vote for me so that I bring these things and join this great group that leads our organization, and so that we can continue the fight that we have in the future. In Virginia, and I'll leave it with this, we understand that we are in a crisis. We are in a crisis similar to that which this nation saw in the summer of 1964. And that's why we have adopted the term Freedom Summer, as we did in Mississippi in '64, in Virginia and across this nation in 2026. Freedom Summer 2.0. It is time for us to stand up and move in a way that we haven't moved in a while, in order to get all of our people out there voting on the right issues, voting for the right people, and fighting and achieving equity. So I thank you all as we continue to fight together, and again, thank you for your vote. God bless you all.
Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to take a break, enjoy lunch, and come back for more conversations and connections. Have a great convention.